Can love actually blind us? It worked for me until Samantha's adultery came to light. It was not an accident. I saw you hit him. Her remarks revealed the real and unpleasant truth. What was once a life of mutual dreams and promises became a story of suspicion and vengeance. I do not want it all. Not like this. Her desperate cries. Please, Ryan, turn the boat around and return for him. She revealed her inner pain, torn between guilt and complicity. Each murmured confession was accompanied by tears of sadness. I painted a depiction of a love poisoned by ambition and money. This is my trek through the ruins of trust. Enjoy viewing it. Will Wainwright did not see it coming. He was 2 days away from St. Peter Port, Guernsey, on his way to Gibraltar. That is where they intended to pick up extra workers. Usually his wife, actress Samantha James, would fly in first and meet him. But the weather looked so lovely that she elected to join Will and Ryan on the barge, much to Will's delight. One of the few things he wanted he did more of was spend time on her 60-foot boat, which was packed with all the greatest stuff. It was equipped with computers for control, powerful winches, and a self-steering system. This boat could be handled by a single person, which was incredible considering its size. He could have flown Samantha to Gib and delegated the sailing to a crew member. But being alone with his boat, facing the water, was his favorite type of break. Ryan, a bit of a rebel from the place in charge of the barge, was the sole crew member accompanying him. When they arrived at Gib, Ryan would be in command that morning after eating and moving quickly thanks to a strong wind behind them. Will observed as Sam went out on deck and sat near the mast. He had asked her to wear a life jacket, but she refused because it would interfere with her tanning. Besides, she stated, "You wouldn't like looking at me if I was clad in a life jacket." Will examined the compass and GPS, verified his maps, and then returned to steering. When he looked up again, he noticed his gorgeous wife pulling out a book. She looked up, gave him a tiny wave and grin, and then her expression transformed to astonishment. Her hand shot to her mouth. Will hadn't even turned around when something hit him hard on the right side. As he attempted to remain standing, everything went black. Then he collapsed and passed out as he began to wake up. He could hear Sam scream. Someone dragged him across the deck and made him sit on the side. He was stunned when this individual pushed him over the boat's edge. They raised his legs and he fell into the sea. Then he passed out again. His head hurt so terribly that he could hardly think. He noticed he was afloat in the water. He looked around and noticed something familiar. BJ-2. He could only see the sails jutting out of the sea, not its body. It was moving away, full sails ahead. He attempted to yell, but just coughed. He touched his head and drew his hand away. It was red. His blood mixed with the ocean surrounding him. I watched him move as he took the GPS. His back muscles flexed beneath his skin as he stood with his legs apart, looking forward across the ship. He tells me it is not a ship, it is a motor yacht. I had to smile. Will would argue that a boat cannot have sails instead of motors. Bruce smiled back at me. "You're good, babe." His chest and stomach are exposed to the sun. It was tragic, I thought. A man with such wonderful looks should know how to make a woman happy in bed. Why do people work so hard on their appearance but not on their love lives? Yeah, I'm good. I remarked this while looking up from my laptop. Just doing some work. Work? I assumed we were on vacation. You can bet your boss is not working right now. He is racing his boat to Gibraltar and he is currently winning. Well, he started before us and I became sidetracked. The more I see you in that swimsuit, the more I lose focus. I put my laptop away and got up. I am going to get something cold to drink. Do you want some beer? Is the Pope a Catholic? He spoke, and I gave him a short kiss. I went back outside, handed Bruce his beer, and returned my juice to my seat. Just then, an alarm rang and the screen changed. I noticed 2 dots, one red and blinking, and the other blue going away from the red. Every dot had a number next to it. It took a moment to figure out. Oh no. I delivered the laptop to Bruce. "Bruce, how quickly can we get here?" He checked the GPS, brought out his map, and highlighted our location in the red dot. He measured the space between them. I did some quick math for an hour and a half, perhaps 2. Why? It is too long. He is in the sea. Who is in the sea? What do you mean? The red dot. That is Will Wainwright, my supervisor. The blue dot represents his boat, which is departing him. They are unaware that he has fallen off. How long can he be in the water? Your bosses will be Wainwright, a prominent figure from the City of London, if he is in the sea. Many people would tell you to leave him there, but they don't know him. Look, Bruce, he needs us. We need to help. So I guess we're on our way, and we have enough fuel. He's not Australian, is he? No, I do not think so. Why, if I rescued an Australian, I would be unable to return to Auckland. He laughed. Press the accelerator. The engines roared and the front of the boat lifted. I nearly fell when the boat accelerated, reaching 20 knots and bounding over the waves. I got back up next to Bruce. So how long is it now? Approximately an hour or less. I reached out and pushed the power controls all the way. The boat sped ahead and I fell onto Bruce's lap. Black smoke poured from the back. What are you doing, Nut? If those engines pop out of the water at full throttle, we're stuck. Then keep them inside. We are saving a life here. That's much more important than your engines. Wow, it appears that Wainwright is not the local loan shark. Hey, sit back and allow me to push this thing as quickly as I can. I might make it in 40 minutes, but that could be too late. Samantha was horrified by what she witnessed. Ryan had seized an oar from BJ's tiny boat and was swinging it forcefully at Will's head. Will was all grins and waving at her, unaware of what was about to happen. She wanted to shout, but all she could do was gasp when the oar struck Will just above his right ear. His head jerked to the side, and he appeared to stumble before falling on the deck. She yelled aloud, stopping Ryan. She tried to stand but fell back down, weak. Ryan was already pushing Will to the boat's edge when she looked back. She stood up and approached the yacht's driving area. Ryan was pushing Will over the side as she descended into the driving area. She screamed again as Will's body went into the sea. Stop it! You are killing him! She yelled as she approached Ryan. She yelled for Will and hit Ryan on the back with her fists. Stop the boat! He will die! Stop! Come back for him! Ryan turned and grabbed her wrists to stop the hits. Trust me, Sam, it is for the best. It was a mishap. He was hit by the explosion and plunged in. We didn't notice until too late. There was no mishap. He was now surrounded by water. The waves hoisted him up, but all he could see was the ocean. He tried, but was unable to make sense of it. He was in the water. They had abandoned him, and they were not near any ship paths, so being saved felt like a remote possibility. Don't lose hope, he told himself. He attempted to remember how he got into the water, but he couldn't remember anything after breakfast. He looked around and saw nothing but water. Then something caught his eye. He gazed and felt his heart sink. A shark's top fin was nearby, about 50 feet distant. He tried to remember what kinds of sharks were around here. Most weren't a concern, but there were rumors of great whites around Cornwall. If they could go to Cornwall, they could also come here. He observed the shark's tail come up from fin to tail, which appeared to be roughly 20 feet. This was a large shark looking away from the shark. He then spotted her. She was around 5'6" in a bikini, heading across the ocean towards him. Her brown hair was pulled back and swung as she moved. He knew she could not be real, but she felt familiar to him. She grabbed for his hand. He heard a man's voice. Hold on, mate, I'll come and aid you, using his other hand. Will pointed to the shark. A splash next to him alerted him to the presence of another person in the water. He looked at the lady and noticed she wasn't walking on water. She was leaning over a large white boat. A metal ladder had been dropped from the back, and the man in the water was dragging him towards it. As we rushed over the waves, I glanced from Bruce to the laptop, then back to him. He appeared to be having fun, always changing the controls to get us going quickly but safely, while keeping an eye on the GPS. Now he could only see water. The waves lifted him, but water was all about, trying hard. He could not make sense of it. He was in the water and had been left behind, far from the roots. Ships are being located. It felt like a small hope. Don't lose hope, he told himself. He attempted to remember how he got here, but couldn't recall anything after breakfast. Water was everywhere. Then something caught his eye. Turning, his heart plummeted. A shark's clean fin was seen from a distance of roughly 50 feet. He attempted to think of what sharks inhabited here. Most were harmless. However, there were reports of great whites near Cornwall. If they could reach Cornwall, they could also come here. The shark's tail was visible above water, and the distance from fin to tail was approximately 20 feet. This was a large shark. Turning away from the shark, he noticed her, a 5'6" hourglass figure in a bikini. She moved towards him on the lake, her dark hair pulled up and swinging with each step. He was certain she couldn't be real yet. Something about her felt familiar. She reached down and took his hand. He heard a man's voice. "Hold on, pal. I'll help with his other hand." Will pointed to the shark. There was a splash close to him, and someone in the water looked up. The woman was not on the water, but rather leaning against a large white boat. A metal ladder hung from behind, and the man in the water drew him towards it. On the boat, as we sailed over waves, I glanced from Bruce to the laptop, then back to Bruce. He appeared happy. He was constantly shifting his speed based on what he thought was safe. He would occasionally glance at me while watching the GPS. "Are they still moving away?" he asked. I nodded in agreement. I knew something was wrong. If this was a mistake, they would have seen it by now. Perhaps it isn't him. Perhaps that is only his life vest in the sea. Bruce tried to cheer me up. I nodded again, but we both knew that wasn't it. An empty life vest would be propelled by the wind and travel far faster than the red dot on my screen. I peered at the screen, trying to preserve my grip on the computer. Then I did something I had not done since I was a girl. I prayed. "Please, God, let him be okay. He's not a very bad man. He can do better. I can help him get better. Please just give me the chance. Let him live." The booming roar of the motors faded, and the boat ceased bouncing over the sea. I gave Bruce a look that said, "What is going on? Where?" "Close." He stated that tools can only help us up to this point. From now on, we must use our eyes. He showed his eyes. "Here, take the wheel. Just keep us going straight." I took the wheel, and Bruce dashed down into the cabin, returning with a set of glasses for seeing far, and jumped to the roof of the cabin. "Okay, I'll go ahead. And if I see him, I'll tell you what to do. Okay? You understand which side is which, right? I suppose left is port, right?" He smiled. "Yeah, left is unquestionably port." I observed him as he scanned the sea for any signs. He repeatedly raised the spectacles to his eyes before lowering them again. I attempted to watch as Bruce issued his first command. "Yes, it is correct." I quickly twisted the wheel to the right and the boat began to turn left, left, left. "Keep moving straight." "Yes, indeed, I notice your boyfriend. I see him. Oh my God." He swiftly returned and got into the boat, taking the wheel and increasing the speed slightly. "What's wrong, Bruce? What did you see? Just keep calm, okay?" There were 2 sharks in the water, but only one was noteworthy. It might be fine, right? Not all sharks are dangerous. True, not all, just the major ones. I know that one is fine, the other resembles a shark's jaws. I peered out from the boat and spotted Will in the water wearing an orange jacket. The shark was located a little further away. I gasped as it turned to face Will. Bruce exclaimed, staring through binoculars with a wide smile. "That's a bazooka! Huge, but will not injure you." Bruce steered the boat close to Will. I stretched out and grasped his hand, and Bruce lowered a ladder. Will pointed at the shark as Bruce jumped into the water. He assisted Will to the ladder. "Okay, Steph, grab his hands. I'll help from below." Will soon found himself on the boat deck. I dried him with a towel as Bruce removed his wet clothing and jacket. "He's not doing well, Steph. He's cold and has a horrible haircut. He urgently needs hospitalization." Bruce examined his maps. "Saint Nazaire has one. I will try, but he is in horrible shape. Let's get him into bed." We lifted him up. I walked him to bed. I held Bruce's hands. "Thank you, Bruce. You are fantastic. Simply doing my job. Now I need to get to Saint Nazaire." He turned to leave and then looked back. "You speak French, correct?" "Yes. Why?" Even though English is widely used at sea, knowing French can be extremely beneficial. I called the Coast Guard over the radio to inform them of his injuries and to ensure that an ambulance was available at the port. We promptly set ship for Saint Nazaire while I cared for Will in our room. He felt quite cold. I crawled into bed with him and wrapped him up to keep him warm. I used to fantasize of being so close to him, but not like this. For 5 hours, we went quickly across the sea. Will warmed up and woke up, and I made a quick salad for Bruce and myself, which we ate as we continued on. It became dark, but we did not stop. I felt better when I saw the lights along the French coast. An ambulance arrived as promised, and they snatched Will. I had a minute to speak with Bruce. What comes next for you? I'll fill the boat and then proceed to man. The boss will not be pleased. I am late, but that's how things are. Who is the boss? Sir George McMahon is the huge building boss. Do you know him? Yes, I do. Do not worry about it. If you come to the hospital tomorrow, I will make sure your petrol is paid for. I kissed him on the cheek before walking towards the ambulance. He called after me. Hello, Steph. Is he the one? I turned around and felt my face warm up. Is he the person you were thinking of last night? You were with me, but your thoughts were elsewhere. Was that him? I nodded. Good luck. I will see you in the morning. Sam didn't leave the cabin all day. She didn't feel hungry or need to use the restroom. She couldn't stop thinking about Will being gone, murdered. Their love story had been like a fairy tale right as things were starting to look up. Will had been after her since he first saw her on television. Every day he would send flowers and flashy trinkets. He showed up at her house every night. At first, she pushed him away, but she couldn't resist and enjoyed being hounded by Will Wainwright. There was no upscale establishment that did not welcome him. No show that said no. They had a great time after being married. Things slowed. Will spent the first year focusing solely on her, setting aside his career, but he eventually returned to it. That meant travels away. She went with him at first, but became tired with hotel stays and walking alone. Staying at home meant she could be with her friends. She considered acting again, but her agent wasn't very helpful. Trips to Brighton began as enjoyable days with the girls, and she enjoyed showing off. BG2. That is when she met Ryan. Ryan was constantly looking after BJ for Will. After a day out with the girls, she found herself on Ryan's deck, having champagne in the sunshine. Ryan led them outside for a while, and they all lay on the deck in bikinis. Sam is still in her swimsuit. The cocktails got them talking, and Sam mentioned how lonely she felt. Ryan gazed at her. If you were my wife, I'd never leave you alone. Oh, Ryan, that is really wonderful. She leaned forward to touch his face, but almost knocked the chair over. Oh gosh, I feel woozy. I shouldn't drive, she explained, taking out her phone to hunt for a place to stay. There is no need for that. You can sleep here. It's cozy, he offered. I didn't consider that. Yes, I can. We can obtain lunch at the pavilion. Mr. Wainwright does this whenever he stays the night. Oh, Ryan, you are very wonderful. She squeezed his hand. They ate outside and continued drinking. Ryan began to speak poorly about Will. He claimed Will wasn't a good sailor. Will was not adept, therefore the boat did all of the work. He also stated that the boat required workers to operate properly, but Will was too cheap to pay for this. Samantha realized she should have stopped him, but she didn't. Ryan played loud music from his iPod while they danced outside. The drinks took away her worries, and she collapsed into his arms. Oh, Ryan, I can't do it. I am married. If he cared about you, he would be here, not me. Samantha's balance deteriorated during the night. After stumbling again, she embraced Ryan and kissed his cheek. It's time to go to bed, she announced. He led her to her room, held her close, and helped her sit on the bed. She drew him close. My hero, she said, kissing him. Ryan, this is incorrect, she whispered. No, Sam, this is correct. Do you want this? I want this. You and he are the problem. He does not see your worth. He does not deserve you. He was close, and they moved around on the bed, pleased until they were exhausted and fell asleep. Sam awoke feeling rough, her throat dry and her head hammering. There was also a wet area on the bedding. She got up and went to the bathroom to sip some water. She discovered some headache tablets and took 2. She didn't remember what happened the night before till she returned to her bedroom. She gasped when she noticed Ryan still in her bed. She went back into the restroom, sat down, and buried her face in her hands. Oh no, what have I done? She had a thought. She made up her mind. This cannot happen again, she decided. I'll tell Ryan that it was all a terrible mistake. It meant nothing. He must forget it. She returned to the bedroom and saw Ryan awake and sitting up. He grinned at her. You're very beautiful, he said. Last night was incredible. What comes next for us, Ryan? Last night was wrong, and it cannot happen again. No, it was correct. We both wanted it. I know we did. We did nothing wrong. But it's horrible. I am married. I should not be here with you. What would my spouse, your boss, say? He does not love you. Not like I do. If he did, he wouldn't leave you alone so often. She realized she should have corrected him. She told him it was her choice to be alone and that her spouse loved her. But Ryan's words of affection drew her in. "Oh, Ryan, you cannot love me. We barely know one another. Last night we were just too drunk to think clearly. You're quite sweet. Ryan and I like you, but I'm married and that's important. I love you. I've felt it since our first meeting. I was not drunk. I wanted it to happen. I want to be with you. You'd better get your clothes and go. I need to dress up. I'm headed to London." He gathered up his clothing and proceeded to the door. Then she yelled at him, "Ryan, last night? It did not happen. I get it." He nodded and left the cottage, depressed. Now I'm alone on the boat with someone who has done something horrible. She wished she hadn't returned to Brighton without Will. She tried. Really? For 3 weeks, she refused to give in to her friend's requests for another day out with BJ. "I get it," remarked Jane, her best friend. "She wants Ryan, that hot guy, all for herself. That's not correct." Beverly jumped in. "She's married and her will is pretty appealing. Rich as well. Having Ryan is just too much." Her face grew red, and she started crying. Jane embraced her. "Oh, do not cry. We were only joking. You have to admit that Ryan is really attractive. We're just a little jealous." Samantha wiped her tears. "I apologize. It simply made me miss Will more. That's why we need a girls' day on the boat. Perhaps I will ask Ryan to set it up." She realized it was a mistake, but she couldn't stop herself. The other gals made an attempt with Ryan, but were unsuccessful. Jane even suspected he may be gay. Sam struggled to restrain herself from defending him. Samantha drank copious amounts of champagne, as was customary. The other girls departed for the train, leaving her with Ryan. She had booked a hotel at the Grand for the night and intended to take a taxi, but Ryan offered to drive. It felt rude not to invite him to supper. It was obvious what would happen next. It was a warm spring, and Will was gone. The girls' push on both days was too much to refuse. She began visiting Brighton when she was upset or needed to get her mind off things. At first it appeared to be simply for fun. She never imagined she'd find herself on a boat with someone who had done something terrible. A knock on the door. "Sam? Sam, talk to me. You can't simply hide in there. We need to work this out." She laid on the bed, pillows covering her head, praying he'd leave. "I was quite grateful for my year off in France. It allowed me to improve my French skills significantly, something I learned at school. By the end of the year, I was fluent, which was good. Most of the hospital staff spoke little English, but I could comprehend them in French." "Madam Wainwright?" It was 20 minutes before the doctor came in. "No," I replied. I informed him that Samantha was with Will on the boat. "As far as I know." "I'm Mr. Wainwright's assistant," I explained. "Is something wrong?" "Mr. Wainwright is quite ill. He injured his head and there is bleeding in his brain. We need to perform surgery. It is dangerous, and I should consult his family beforehand. What happens if you don't do it?" The doctor shrugged. "It's difficult to say. He is strong. It's a surprise he hasn't died. He might survive, but he will not be the same. And if you do, he's likely to survive and may not have suffered significant brain damage. He could improve over time. We cannot bring his family here in less than 12 hours. Have we that much time? No. Waiting makes things worse. Do it. Doctor, I will back you up. Will would not want to live until he was keen. I will attempt to get his father here, but go ahead and do what's necessary." The doctor left and I sat down, taking out my phone. Will's father, Tom, lived in Sheffield. I spoke with him several times when he tried to contact Will. He seemed decent, and I felt sorry for him. We'll never talk about him, but I was aware of a previous incident. Tom wanted to improve things, but we did not want to. He did not even invite him to his wedding. We didn't know, but I'd spoken with his father before and had his phone number. I called him and waited. "Tom Wainwright, what's up?" "Tom, this is Stephanie Fletcher. Will is hurt. He needs you." "Stephanie, sorry, I did not know the number. What do you mean?" "He needs me. That boy hasn't needed me since he was a little. Did he say he needed me?" "No, Tom, he can't actually speak. It is awful. We might lose him. He needs you here." "And so do I." Tom ran his own business in Sheffield, making automotive parts. It would not be easy for him to simply depart. "Okay, girl, where am I?" "The hospital in St. Nazaire." "It's in." Tom stopped me. "Oh, I get it, gal. My father was there for a raid. I went to a service with him as a child. I need to make a few calls before heading over. See you tomorrow." We hung up, and I called the next number. Sir George McMahon was a tough individual. He was happy to have started his construction firm from the ground up. He was now in his late 60s and being told to delegate authority to a younger individual. But this was not Sir George's style. He'd stand firm as long as he could. He disliked people who took advantage of others, such as Will. Bad luck. He picked up after 3 rings. "Hi, what up? Sir? George? I am Stephanie Fletcher. I work for Will Wainwright. I do not mean to be harsh, Miss Fletcher, but I do not believe Mr. Wainwright and I need to talk." "Oh, sir, I understand. I called to inform them that your boat will arrive a day late. Your guy, Bruce Goddard, helped us out a lot today, which is making him late. I just wanted to let you know that Mr. Wainwright owes you one. I'll speak with Goddard when he arrives. But what can Wainwright do for me? If he were here, he'd probably urge you to phone your financial advisor, Mr. Andrew Pemberley, and decline the emergency meeting next Tuesday. Mr. Wainwright is unable to attend and has canceled all deals." "Wait a second. Are you suggesting that Andy Pemberley, an old friend of mine, intended to sell my business?" "Sir, I think you should talk to him about it. Mr. Wainwright believes he owes you. He's willing to lend some of our team to show you where your weaknesses are and assist you in correcting them." There was a little pause before Sir George spoke again. "So what was the major favor Goddard performed for your boss?" "I am unable to say, sir. You can't ask Mr. Goddard. It was a huge assistance and cost you nothing. However, you can utilize your yacht for 1 day. You now have my phone number, so call if you need Mr. Wainwright's aid. Only one more thing. We would prefer that you do not discuss this, sir. Keep quiet. You just told me that my so-called friend is betraying me. I'll look into this. And if it is true, believe me, I will act. I guess I won't get any more from you now, so good night." And he was gone. "Thank you, Sir George." I spoke to the phone. It was now peaceful. I was exhausted and collapsed on some hard seats in the front area. I closed my eyes but was unable to fall asleep. My thoughts kept going over everything. It had been 12 hours since he had fallen into the river, and no one had reported that a man had gone missing from BG2 and had not returned. The more I thought about it, the less it seemed like an accident. I started wishing I'd expressed what I thought about Samantha. Would have listened to me. Was I even correct? Perhaps I wanted to believe she was up to no good. In Guernsey, they appeared to be very happy. I wondered if I was mistaken. Perhaps I wasn't looking at the correct individual. Maybe I should have been watching Ryan. He always gave me a strange vibe, similar to a snake, always willing to satisfy but also to hurt when you least expect it. I must have fallen asleep from exhaustion since I awoke to a nurse tapping my shoulder. "Miss Fletcher, miss. The surgery is over. Your acquaintance is currently in a special needs room. Can I see him?" "You can, but he will not be aware of your presence. We administered medication to keep him sleepy. It promotes brain healing. In England, I believe it's referred to as chemical slumber. I still want to see him, please. Could you show me where? Did she take me?" Through a maze of corridors to a special care unit, and then to a small room where he lay in a bed, his head wrapped around a tube in his mouth to help him breathe. Machines were attached to his chest and fingers, and a medical tube is being inserted into his hand. It appears worse than it is. He is strong. He is breathing on his own, and his heart is still beating. So he should make it. How about his brain? You'll need to consult your doctor about it. They removed 2 blood clots, and I think he'll be fine. Can I stay with him, nurse? Of course, miss. There's a comfortable chair. They say that talking to them helps. Maybe you should chat to your pal. I sat next to the bed, holding his hand, hoping to detect any indication that he was still fighting inside. His hand felt rough but did not move. I put my other hand on top and wished hard. "Come on, Will. You need to battle this. I can't lose you right now. We need you back." I cried for the first time since this all began. I cried for him, for myself, and for all the moments we might not get to enjoy. Wiping away tears, I leaned back and quickly fell asleep. I awoke at 6 a.m. The nurses came in to check on him and adjust his drip. I requested a shower, and a nurse directed me to where I could clean up. After washing and eating breakfast, I felt more like myself and went back to wait for Bruce. Bruce appeared as brilliant as ever. His first inquiry astonished me. "How is he doing today?" "We don't know for certain yet, but it appears that he will survive. Thank you." "Me? I merely did what I was told," he explained. I jokingly punched his arm. "You guided us to him and back." I told him, "You saved his life whether you admit it or not." Bruce, ever the humble hero, simply blushed. I need another favor. Keep things quiet so George understands you're late and no one else has to know why. If they inquire, simply evade the question. You are excellent, as you are well aware. I hope he understands what he has, Bruce stated. I'm not sure what he'll know when he wakes up, but I need to keep us moving. Now let us get you moving. I have a corporate card for gas. We went out to the waterfront, and by 10:30 a.m., Bruce was on his way, while I took a taxi back to the hospital. That afternoon, Tom Wainwright showed up. The moment I saw him, I knew who he was. He had his son's blue eyes and powerful chin. His hair has changed from gray to white. Tom was not one to dye his hair. He carried his age like a badge of honor. He was approximately 6 feet tall and appeared to be in good shape for his age. I rose up to greet him as he entered. He looked at Will, the machines, and then at me. "You must be Stephanie," he replied, reaching out to embrace me. I stepped into his hug. Being in a man's arms felt quite reassuring. As I leaned my head against him, I could feel my tears begin anew. I was pleased I hadn't applied makeup. We remained like this for a moment before he carefully lifted my face to look at me. "I am here now. You don't have to do this alone anymore. I have booked you a room at the Royal for tonight. You look like you need to rest." He went up to Will's bed and I explained what each machine did. He took Will's hand and murmured, "I'm sorry, son. I haven't been the finest father, but I love you, and I'll show you." He then put his arm over me. "I didn't eat today. Can we get food? And you can tell me anything." I went him to the staff restaurant and told him what I knew while we ate and had coffee. He summarized my own concerns. So Will was hit hard and fell overboard. His yacht just kept moving. If no one saw it, they must have missed him by now. But no one has claimed he is defeated, and the boat is still on its original journey. Something isn't right, is it? It is even worse, Tom. I believe Samantha and Ryan are together behind our backs. She has been spending a lot of time in Brighton without Will. Mr. and Mrs. Wainwright always book a room at the Grand. Oh my, that's yours. That sounds like a compelling justification for a crime. Is this why you are retaining it? Hush. I hope he can tell us what happened before they hit Gibraltar, kind of. But it's also to keep his friends from noticing he's not present. Tom appeared confused. Oh, Tom, come on. You are aware of the tough crowd he is with. If they figure out what's going on, they will come for his deals. I've been quiet and lost one transaction already. Before we reveal the ending, I'd like to know how things turn out. He is lucky to have you. He pays me well, Tom. No amount of money can buy the dedication you provide. I see it, and deep down you agree. If his wife matched your dedication, he would not be where he is today. He paused to reflect. Does he understand how you feel? I'm not sure what you mean, Tom. You are in love with him. It's evident now. Whatever happens, you'll be there for him. It won't matter how much his injury alters him. You will stand by him. That is why you phoned me, correct? You know, he might not be grateful, but you believe he needs assistance. And I can't say no. Is this bad? No, girl. It's wonderful. I only want you to get something in return. I hope that for Tom, but it is not necessary. I would love him regardless. You already know who I am. I can't say no to him. I believe I played a role in his current situation. I wish it were not so. But it is. Now I'll do what's necessary to give us more time to set things right. I'll do whatever you ask. They say that familiar items aid in these situations. So, how about we play some of his favorite songs? I brought some books to read to him. Together, we will see him through this. Sam awoke to loud knocks at the door. Sam, you can't stay locked up the entire journey. I made breakfast. Come out and talk. All right, I will be there soon. She realized she had to get along with Ryan, at least until they reached Gibraltar. Pretend she was thinking. Act as if it's simply another part. As she prepared, she realized she had not purchased any of it. She dressed in a t-shirt and pants and didn't forget her life jacket. She stepped out onto the deck and sat. She was accustomed to eating here, so the unsteady table did not disturb her. She was quite hungry because she hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Ryan brought her coffee as she ate her breakfast. You already know I did it for us. It wasn't correct. Are you with him, acting so happy? We could have waited, Ryan. You didn't need to kill him. He did not deserve that. I could have left him. No, that wouldn't do. You enjoy excellent stuff. That is something I cannot give you. But I can live without anything I did previously. I can do it again. You do not have to lose out. Now you won't. See, now we can be together without anxiety. We can have everything. Ryan, you don't know that. What if he left everything to the yacht club? So what happens next? Ryan was caught off surprise. He hadn't considered that Will may leave his riches to anybody other than Samantha. She could almost see him thinking deeply about this new concern. No, he would not do it. And even if he did, you could resist his will. You will not be left with nothing. We don't know that. Perhaps we should land and report him missing. Maybe he is still out there. The more we wait, the worse it seems. He's gone. You have to accept that. If he had been alive when he hit the water, he would not have survived very long. This is the Atlantic. You can only last for around 20 minutes. 30 at most. I checked, and there was no boat close enough to rescue him. And if someone did pick him up, they'd notify someone and call for assistance. I was listening to the radio. All I heard was a French lady in Saint-Nazaire speaking in French. It's the French coastline. What were you expecting her to say? English? Of course. It's what everybody uses at sea. All Coast Guards do. And any SOS should be in English. She was probably just speaking with her boyfriend. So, if we aren't going to stop, what is our plan? We cannot simply turn up and give without him. Well, the weather is going to turn awful in a few days. We'll pretend he was carried overboard and call it in. We had to give since I would be hurt and unable to help. Search, see? I've thought about it. Aren't you troubled that you just killed a man? I try to avoid thinking about it. It has to be finished. But it's not just about me. We are both in this, but I was not involved in it. I asked you to go back for him. I know, as do you. But what if this gets out? Nobody will believe you weren't participating. It wouldn't matter what I said. Samantha had remained calm up to that point, but hearing Ryan's final comments made her worried. That's not correct. I was out of it. I liked the way things were. However, now that he is gone, you stand to benefit the most. If they call it murder and know about us, no one will believe you are innocent. That's why we have to convince everyone that it was an accident. We need a good story to cling to. She began crying profusely. Her hopes of being calm were dashed. Just 2 days ago, she felt on top of the world. Her spouse had returned home and they were happy together. He is sailing his boat. And she enjoyed seeing him. Joy. She had been so happy. Having Ryan around was strange, but she coped. Everything was now upside down. Ryan was correct. People would assume she had a hand in it. She could picture the headlines proclaiming her the Black Widow. This is not fair. She had a thought. Sure, I had a brief interaction with Ryan, but that is not improper. She felt Ryan's arm around her. Do not cry. I will repair it. We'll call it an accident. They must prove otherwise. If we stick together, we'll be fine. Sam attempted but was unable to eat her breakfast. Her stomach was disturbed. She returned to her room and attempted to read, but was unable to focus. They wouldn't reach Gibraltar for another 4 days. She wasn't sure whether she could wait that long. The day was lengthy for Sam. Ryan offered her food and drink, but she declined. That night, she did not lock her door and was not shocked when Ryan joined her in bed. He stepped closer and reached for her. She brushed away his hand. Not tonight, Ryan. I just don't feel it. Ryan exhaled and turned aside. Tom Wainwright sat beside his son holding a collection of poems by Philip Larkin. He remembers Will as a 14-year-old reading the poems to his mother. His mother disliked them because of their rude language. We kept arguing that it wasn't about the words, but how the poet used them. He read on until Tom, seeing his wife angry, snatched the book and threw it away. He had said, "That's where this silly poetry goes. Why can't you drop all of this artistic stuff? Don't you realize that it bothers your mother? Why can't you be more manly like your brother?" He reached out to take his son's hand. This Larkin guy knew his stuff. I'll admit that I never truly read his works, but I see why you enjoyed it. He continued reading as I departed. I was gone for 4 hours. During that time, I purchased an iPod and speakers, downloaded some music, checked into my hotel room, and had a little nap when I returned. Tom stood up and hugged me. Look at you, looking fresh. Thank you, Tom. It's crazy. What a shower nap can accomplish. What has been happening on here? Not much. They took him for an MRI about an hour ago, but no word yet. Did Dr. Montan stop by? No, although Nurse Marie checked on him several times and switched the drip. Perhaps we should first find Dr. Montan. How about we get some coffee? Finding Dr. Montan took only 5 minutes, and he seemed relieved to see someone who could agree to any additional surgery. He told us what he'd done. I asked about the most recent scan, which he showed us on a tablet while scanning through images. Looks excellent. Mister, Wainwright's brain isn't swelling anymore, might even be less swollen. We will see more tomorrow. And if that continues, we might reduce his sedation. We thanked him and went to the staff cafe for coffee. I sat across from Tom, wondering about how to start a difficult conversation. Tom glanced at me with a sparkle in his eyes. I'd like to believe you're here with me because you can't resist my appeal. But I know my ego isn't very huge. So what is on your mind? I know Will wants to believe he's fine on his own. Okay. Do you want the family story? I will tell you, but I do not believe it will make things better. Too many horrible things have transpired. You might not like me once I'm done. Tom felt uneasy as he attempted to start. You know Will isn't an only child, right? No, I did not. He had a large brother named John. John was 4 years older. When Will was born, John became quite jealous. I found it easier to communicate with a 4-year-old than a baby. I told myself it was because Will received all of his mom's affection. That was not true, however. Will was also my child, named after my father. Every father's goal is to have a child like John. I used to play football, swim, and run track, a real star. I watched him win numerous prizes. I even got a case for them. Will was not like others. He reflected on things a lot. Are you in here? He pointed at his head. He didn't care about sports. Teachers described him as extremely intelligent. He enjoyed learning. I am an engineer. I am familiar with numbers, but he not only understood them, but also enjoyed them. He enjoyed reading and science, anything that required pondering. By 14, he was the county's greatest chess player. Chess. Can you believe it? I missed his huge game since I was playing golf with buddies. I couldn't sit and watch the time pass. I did not get chess. It was up to Emma. My wife will be there for him. When I went home, she was ecstatic, telling me he had won at 14. After a few drinks at the golf club, I wasn't sure what the big deal was. I may have remarked something like, "It's just a darn board game." Emma attempted to put the award away, but Will carried it to his room, and that was that. Later in the year, we disagreed on poems. Emma told me I should remember I had 2 boys by then, but it was too late. That was the last genuine conversation we had. Even around the holidays, when Emma inquired what he wanted, he said nothing. He worked 2 paper routes and stocked shelves on Saturdays. He was all about job and study. I assumed he would get over it. He saw his sibling have it easy, yet he would rather work hard than ask. He saved up for a new computer entirely on his own. John did not want to go to college. He assumed he'd finish up in the family business. Will had other ideas at 18, so he bought a motorcycle and enrolled at Southampton University to study economics and statistics. That's where he started sailing. After that, I only saw him on Christmas. He worked in Southampton throughout his breaks. He would pay Emma visits on occasion, but only when I was not present. A golf buddy's daughter stated that he was becoming well known for his sailing in Southampton. Finally, something I could achieve in any race. The first to finish wins. It's clear to tell who is ahead. I felt so proud. I wanted to watch him sail, but I had no idea when or where he would be racing. I could have talked to my pal, but I couldn't admit it. I scarcely knew my own child, so I lied and stated his mother and I were very proud of him. John kept messing up. He failed to complete any assignment at the company because he arrived late, hungover, or both. I had to employ another worker simply to double-check his work. He even crashed his corporate car twice. He was a terrible brat, and deep down I knew it was my fault. I made him believe he could get away with anything for me. He was all I had left, so I hoped he would change. While John messed about, Will worked hard to establish himself. When the city's laws relaxed, he began playing the stock market while still in school. He graduated at the top of his class, debt-free and wealthier than when he began. He got a trade job and made a lot of money, but he didn't spend it like his wealthy friends. His one treat was a racing boat that he first titled Blowjob, but the racing community rejected that name. Too embarrassing for the announcers. Will modify it to BJI once saw him win a race against cows. My pals claimed Will's astute decisions won it. They wanted to rejoice alongside Will and his teammates. I nearly went, but fear kept me back. What if he shoved me away in front of them? However, there was still a chance to set things right. Emma and I reviewed the racing schedule and decided to watch him race again. He would never ignore her, even if it meant he had to speak with me. I figured if I just talked to him, I could repair the situation. I honestly thought I had a chance. Then came the night I shattered my own world. I was supposed to accompany Emma to a large charity event, but I got caught up in negotiations to sell to a major automobile firm in Birmingham. The conversations dragged on. By 6:30, we were still going strong, and I needed to take them to lunch. Of course, I called Emma, and she agreed to go alone as long as I came to fetch her. Later. I was driving home with some time remaining when I encountered a massive traffic jam on the highway. After sitting there for half an hour, I realized I couldn't make it, so I called John and asked him to collect his mother. I got very angry when he said no. I warned him he had to get her or he would lose his job and car in the morning. He kept telling me no, but I didn't listen. I hung up with him. After the traffic cleared, I realized I'd be only a half hour late. I tried calling Emma, but there was no answer. I suppose John had gone to collect her. Just as I neared the summit, traffic came to a halt again. Ahead there were flashing blue lights. As I drew closer, I noticed a car had smashed through the guardrail. I felt awful for them because they didn't know. As he glanced at me, tears streamed down his face. I held his hand. "Oh, Tom, not Emma." He nodded. The drop was 100 feet. They had no chance. The cop said John had consumed far too many drinks. He was trying to tell me something, but I wouldn't listen. I caused it as if I had pushed them. I know it, and Will knows it. I sat next him, wrapped my arm around him, and pulled him close. "No, Tom, you did not. It is not your fault." John was aware of how inebriated he was. He could have taken Emma in a taxi. He didn't need to drive. I am sure Will does not blame you. "Oh, he does, girl. He barely spoke to me at the funeral. But my sister made us talk. She stated we were all we had left and needed to make amends. We'll just tell you I ruined everything on that horrible night. But you are still here for him. You have not departed. I cannot, girl." My Emma was correct. I have 2 sons. I had to show him that no matter what. I love him. I am proud of him. It always was. Just didn't show it correctly. I don't like what he does, but I'm glad that he did it on his own. I took his hand. "We will get him through this together. Then you will get your chance." We finished our coffee. Tom went to his hotel while I stayed with Will. I put on some music and worked on my laptop while it played. I checked the ship's location. It was near Spain, at A Corunna. I looked at the news. Nobody was missing from the ship. It was beginning to appear less like an accident. The night passed quietly. Tom arrived at midnight and I went to my hotel to sleep. For the first time since it all began. When I returned, Tom was asleep. I awoke him and we ate breakfast. When we got back, Will was being transported for an MRI. I assured Tom I'd let him know what had happened and he went to sleep. Around midday, Will returned. Dr. Montan arrived 2 hours later, smiling broadly. "Good news, the swelling is reducing. We can begin to wake him, but we will. We'll be okay." The doctor simply shrugged. "There will be some hurt. We cannot say how much. He might get better, but we have to wait until he wakes up. Give us a moment. We'll learn more soon." "When will he wake up, Doc?" "We'll gradually discontinue the sleep medications. He might start waking up tomorrow, or a little after. We'll be watching him. If he appears to be waking up, we will remove the tube that helps him breathe." He appeared surprised as I hugged him. After the doctor departed, I walked to the bed and kissed Will on the forehead. "It is time to wake up. It is now in your hands." I sat next to him, holding his hand, playing his music and reading to him. Every now and then his fingers would move, prompting me to stop and check on him. Tom arrived early at 10 p.m. to take my position. Tom Wainwright spent the entire night watching over his son. He watched Will's hand shake slightly, but nothing showed. He awoke from time to time. He would read aloud or play tunes that we would enjoy or remember. The last time the iPod played a Rolling Stones song, Tom sung along. He noticed his son's hand move. It wasn't simply a twitch. The hand raised and then dropped back to Will's tummy. Tom stopped singing and simply observed his baby sleeping. Will's hand remained still. Again, Tom sung along with the music. The hand lifted, waved to the side, and then dropped back. Tom hit the call button quickly. It seemed like forever before the nurse arrived. Tom informed her about the hand. She initially doubted the movement's legitimacy. The nurse pierced Will's hand and saw it pull back. Then she laid her hand down and wrote, "What happened in 5 minutes?" 2 doctors and a nurse entered, and one removed the tube from Will's mouth. Tom tried to communicate with the doctors, but they didn't understand English. He wished Stephanie were present, but she was still 2 hours away. So he sat back and watched. He took out his book and began to read aloud. "Parents mess you up. They do not intend to, but they do. They pass on their weaknesses to you, as well as some that are unique to you." Reading those lines from Larkin reminded him of Will's father, who used to say them at home when he got to the end and didn't have children himself. He paused to glance at Will. "You know, that Larkin man was on to something about love or fighting. That was like your grandfather and grandmother. I tried not to make it that way for you and John. It was easy. Your mother was not like my mother. She waited until you were asleep before arguing with me. It was often about you two. She used to complain that I was too gentle on John and didn't pay enough attention to you. I tried, to treat you both equally. John was constantly in front. And, as we say in engineering, the loud element attracts attention. He kept talking to Will till I arrived. He filled me in and I went to get a doctor. I returned with 2 coffees. We sat down and I explained what the doctor had said. "Tom, it's looking good. He's coming around. It might be hours or any moment. We're just waiting now. I need to sleep last. You'll call me if anything changes, correct?" "Of course I will, Tom. Go relax." I started my day by monitoring the business news. Andy Pemberley resigned his work at McMahon Construction because he wanted to spend more time with his family. Their stock began to rise. I wondered what Will thought. There has been no word on whether BG2 is still sailing near Vigo's shore. I returned to my customary duties, hunting for any company with a declining stock price. Will and I talked while we worked, mostly about companies that were too cheap. The morning passed pleasantly, and by early afternoon, Tom was back. He asked whether anything had changed. "Not much, Tom." I told him that he had moved slightly, as if he were dreaming. "So are we still waiting?" I realized Tom was thinking about something. "What up?" I asked. He smiled. "Could you tell?" "Yeah, I have a question. Yesterday I claimed I didn't like what he does, but last night I realized I don't really understand it. I've heard people refer to him as a company breaker, but I'm not sure how ripping a company apart creates money." "Okay, Tom, I'll attempt to clear that up. Let us use Sir George McMahon as an example." "Goodness. You're not after him, are you?" "No, not now, Tom. Sir George's yacht played an important role in saving Will. Sir George made a mistake, became embroiled in a scandal, and is now going through a difficult divorce. He's worried about losing his business to his wife, so he sold several of his shares to his friends, offering to purchase them back later when things calmed down. You see, cash is easier to conceal than stocks. McMahon's share price is falling, and his friends are becoming concerned. We were prepared to make a move and offer slightly more than the market price, but less than what Sir George had committed to pay," said Tom. "So you intend to sell them back to Sir George and perhaps push him a little to make some money?" "No, it isn't so simple. Yes, we would buy as many shares as possible, and we would need to borrow money to do so. Sir George has only 20% right now, and if his wife ends up with even a portion of that, we could make her a reasonable offer. Once we have 85%, we can persuade Sir George to sell at the going rate and transfer the debts to the company. Sir George, like many older people, prefers to own his possessions. McMahon, like many other construction corporations, has acquired a large amount of undeveloped property. They term this land banking. Sir George has acquired far more land than he will require for the foreseeable future. He frequently grabs it to keep it away from rivals. When we take over the corporation, we intend to sell much of the land. The company has its own offices and all of the heavy equipment. We'd sell everything and rent it back. That frees up a lot of cash, making the corporation look very well financially. It also suggests they'll announce a large dividend, which will benefit us. As a result, you end yourself with a large payment in a firm that is heavily in debt and has little to show for it." "Okay, Tom, but keep an eye on the monetary score. Most people who follow stocks simply notice that the money score generates increased demand for shares. We sell a bit, and the price rises. We'll keep selling parts until the price stops rising, then we unload everything. We made 2 or 3 times our money, and we didn't spend anything. The buyout costs fell on the corporation. As a result, the new owners are trapped with a company that must make large interest and rent payments but cannot generate enough revenue to fund them. Yes, that is pretty much it. If the executives are sharp, the share price will plummet quickly. They'll be able to keep afloat because all of their payments are tax deductible. The investors will suffer losses, but they should have done more research before investing. And if the bosses aren't up to par, the company will fail, and everyone will lose their jobs. Tom, I never stated it was an enjoyable game. So you were going to do this to Sir George? Yes, but not now. We owe him one. Think about it. He might even help get his firm back for less than he sold it for. Tom shook his head and glanced at me. You are full of surprises, soft and delicious on the outside. On the inside, they are as tough as nails. Do you love doing all of this? Not really, Tom. Not if the company fails afterward, but this is what we do, and we're terrific at it. I pointed at Will. He excels at it. The best. One thing bothers me. Why stick around if all you care about is looking out for yourself and generating money in whatever way? Why not make your own deals? I stared at the floor. You understand why, Tom? Maybe I do, girl. You can't help but love them. Just how I felt about John, just as I do with him. A cough abruptly ended our calm conversation. We turned to see Will, wide-eyed and unable to speak. We hurried over. I pressed the nurse call button and attempted to hear him out. Thirsty? Water, please. I noticed a jug of water and what appeared to be a little teapot in the cabinet next to the bed. I tipped it to his lips and he started drinking. The nurse rushed in and stopped me right away. No, just a little bit. Only a little bit. I translated too much for Will and Tom and he vomited. The nurse murmured, taking the teapot from me. Too much will make you ill. I interpreted as she dipped a cotton swab into water. She rubbed it across his lips, tapped his chin and said, "Open," before inserting the swab into his mouth and having him suck on it. She tried again with a fresh swab. That's enough for now. I assured them that the doctor would arrive soon. Do you know who I am? I asked Will. Yes. Where am I now? How did I get here? You are in a hospital in Saint-Nazaire. We brought you here after retrieving you from the ocean. How are you feeling? Like a mule kicked me and I ate a lot of sand. Aside from that, I'm not sure yet. That sounds nice, I suppose. Tom was on the opposite side of the bed. Well, look at his father. Why are you here? He was not angry or anything. I'm just asking. She called. I arrived just like that? Yep. I couldn't believe how quickly he arrived, but I'm glad he did. Where is Sam? Still on BJ, I believe. Then it struck me. What if she too fell into the water? BJ had life jacket trackers, but they were not wearing them, and I wasn't sure about Sam. It's best not to concern him now. If she had fallen, she would be gone. Oddly, part of me felt fine with that. Then I felt awful about thinking it. BJ's right. I was taking her to Gibraltar. Sam did not want to fly. Then Dr. Montand entered. He appeared happy. Mr. Wainwright, it's lovely to see you awake. How are you? Awful, Doc. How else? Okay, good. He stared at both Tom and me. If you don't mind, I'll check on him alone. While the doctor checked, we got coffee. Will. I expressed my worries regarding Sam. For the time being, he decided to remain silent. Dr. Montand approached us with a huge grin. Good news, amigos. Mr. Wainwright's brain appears to be functioning okay, but we still need to examine his movement. It's a start, but we're not done yet. Thank you very lot, doctor. You did excellent. It was not me, ma'am. I was only a helper. He nodded towards the sky. Given how badly he was injured and how long he had been in the water, it's shocking. He was still alive when he arrived here. I believe this young man has someone looking out for him from above. So what's next, doctor? Tom asked. He is sleeping again. He will do a lot of it. Maybe we can set him up tomorrow and see what he can do. We thanked the doctor, had our coffee, and returned to see Will. Tom decided to stay with him while I went out and explored the town. Look around for Will. He awoke to see his father reading poetry. Why are you here? Stephanie, your girlfriend, informed me you needed me. So, here I am. Wow. What made you change after so many years? I suppose I deserved that. I wasn't really there for you. Your mother stated it was my arrogance getting in the way. Was it the same foolish pride that drove you to send a drunk to pick her up? Do you truly believe I knew he was drunk? Every day I wish I had declined the Birmingham deal. Your mother was the best part of my existence. Do you think I'd let her get into a car with a drunk on purpose? He could have simply stated, Dad, I drank too much, and I would have ordered him to take a taxi. You know how your mother felt about getting into cars with strangers, and you aren't disappointed with yourself for not being there for her? What do you mean, I was not there? Of course I was not. I did not even live in Sheffield. No, you were in the city making money and didn't care who you shoved aside, while I was attempting to keep your brother from ruining the company and laying off 200 men. So, what were you expecting me to do? I was never the favorite son. Was I not the star lad you could brag about to your mates at the golf club? I worked hard, but you didn't care. You are correct. I made a mistake, but your mother didn't deserve it. She cried evenings when you told her you wouldn't be returning home after university. How frequently did you visit her? You avoided me, which pained her. Are you finished blaming others? You should have cared for her. She was your wife. So John became a shambles. Whose fault is it? You don't like me anymore? So you created me this way. As they continued to argue, tears streamed down both of their faces. Why can't you let it go, Father? Let's move on. I cannot. I promised your mother my Emma. I promised to fix things between us. I might have failed as a spouse and father, but I honor my commitments and I will not break this one. I walked through the hospital halls. Something seemed wrong. Nurse Marie greeted me. She claimed the nurses heard noisy conversations in Will's room. She said we wanted tranquility, but the nurses couldn't help due to the linguistic issue. I thanked them and proceeded to Will's room. Were you having a loud conversation? They seemed astonished. Tom explained that he was just clearing things up. Will remained quiet. Tom arose to go. He paused. You are wrong. Do you think I am humiliated by you? By your job? I am not. I'm extremely proud. I tell people you did everything on your own. I may not enjoy your job, but I am proud of you. He looked at me. See you later. When he went, I returned my attention to Will. Why did you call him? He asked. I required family approval for any further moves, and I couldn't reach Sam, so I called him. Is this an issue? No, not really. I get tired of conversing with him. I bet he's been filling your brain with stories about me being a handful. Not at all. He's been bragging about what you've accomplished. I had no idea you were an ace at chess. Many people consider that insignificant. It didn't mean much to him. It appears to work now. He also discussed your boat racing. Did you know he saw you win in cows? He saw me race the blowjob. Why hasn't he told me? He assumed you'd ignore him in front of your friends. You won't like it, but you have a lot in common. You're correct. I do not want to hear that. The very mention of him drains me. At least you'll be able to rest here. Given how I'm feeling, I might simply sleep, if that is okay. Go ahead, I said, and sat back in my chair. I saw him close his eyes. Soon his breathing changed, and I knew he was gone. When Tom returned, I read from the books he had brought, while also checking up business news on my computer. Heard anything regarding the boat? He asked. It's near Portugal and still on its intended path. He hasn't inquired about his wife yet. No, he's still confused. He was astonished to see you here. I will need to tell him something tomorrow. I only wish you knew what I was thinking, sweetie. You'll figure out the correct words. I kissed him on the cheek and let him be. Samantha understood she was stuck aboard the boat. Being with Ryan was enjoyable in Brighton, but that was before she learned he had killed someone. Now his touch made her feel nauseous. She did everything she could to keep away. But the boat was little. She had even started cleaning a lot, something she hadn't done since living with her parents. Alone, she'd ponder about Will. Did she adore him? It felt like it. She enjoyed being with him. She discovered herself speaking to him even if he couldn't hear. So, why can't you come back and save me from this? I should have gone in the water with you. Dead together would be preferable to lying next to him. I wish I had the bravery to jump overboard. Ryan was busy throughout the day attempting to follow Will's habits. The auto steer kept him on track, but he had to trim his sails frequently to maintain speed. He didn't have to follow Will's plan, but he wanted it to appear as if his boss was still present. He may soon say, "Man overboard." Then he could rest easily. He worried about Samantha. He assumed she would be happy. They may now be together, always. But she appeared unhappy. She stated she loved him. He anticipated witnessing it happen would stun her. If she had gone to Gibraltar as planned, she would have turned to him for consolation. She'd understand once the shock had subsided. He did what was necessary. She needed to be free so they could be together. She was gorgeous and deserved better. He told himself she was simply stunned. By the time they got to Gibb, she'd seen it his way. BJ had radar for ships and the weather. Ryan was pleased as he watched both ships close. The radar indicated the impending arrival of a storm, ideal for his accident report tonight. The winches could raise and lower the sails, but they needed to be stored to avoid injury. They were now only utilizing half their sails. BJ was a big boat, so storing half of her sails took a while. It was growing dark as he went to look for Sam. He discovered her in the kitchen, preparing food. He snuck up behind her, placed his arms around her waist, and she jumped. "Sorry, you terrified me. Coming up like that." She grabbed his hands and pulled them so he could hold her. "A storm is approaching. It might be a rough night. Will we be okay?" "Yes, we will be all right. It may become rough, but BJ is strong. She will keep us safe. I believe now is the appropriate time to inform them that we have lost someone." She shivered as he explained his intentions. They ate quietly, unable to communicate by 10. The weather became nasty. Ryan got up to use the radio. Sam overheard him conversing with the Lisburn Coast Guard. He handed them their space and told them about something horrible that had transpired. "Man goes overboard. Repeat. Man overboard. Lisburn Coast Guard to BJ. Stay where you are. We'll send aid BJ2 to the Lisburn Coast Guard." "I can't do that. We are moving with the wind. I'm hurt, and with this storm, we're heading for Gibraltar. We don't need assistance here. Please seek for Mr. Wainwright on the Lisburn Coast Guard to BJ2. Is the man overboard wearing a life vest, according to BJ2 of Lisburn Coast Guard? Sorry, I can't say we were in bed when the wind hit. I'm not sure if he placed a life vest over Lisburn Coast Guard to BJ. Okay, keep going. We'll warn ships to be cautious and dispatch a helicopter to investigate. Thank you, Lisburn Coast Guard. Over and out." When Sam came back down, he was in bed. She was snuggled up tightly and appeared to be sleeping. He removed his clothing and slid into bed behind her. Tom Wainwright sat beside his son's bed, reading poetry books he was allowed to read aloud. He had slept a little, but the sleep was uncomfortable, keeping him awake. He also read about the difficulties Will may face in the future. He noticed that Will could think clearly enough to debate at least. He heard stories about people who recovered completely, as well as those who appeared to have suffered a major stroke. If striving hard meant anything, willpower would improve. The bed shifted slightly, and Tom looked to see his son open his eyes. "Are you still here? I told you yesterday. I'll remain as long as you need. Your gal cannot do it all. She tried so hard, but it was too much. I saw it. She is not my girl. She works for me. She is my dad, and she is quite excellent at it. Where's Sam? Shouldn't she be here?" "Whatever you say, son. Yes. Your wife should be present. I'm not sure where she is right now. Perhaps Stephanie, who is young, is aware." Tom decided it was better to talk about something else. "Did you have a bad night's sleep?" "Yeah, I had some bizarre nightmares. Or at least I believe they were dreams. They felt real. I was on the ocean when BJ sailed away. I tried shouting, but they didn't hear me. They just sailed off. I am not the one to tell you what that implies. I am an engineer, son." Then there was the shark. Huge. It just swam about. I was bleeding, and there was a shark. I was so afraid. I'm really scared. Yes, most people would be. Then there was a woman. That is the odd part. She was wearing a bikini. Dad, she looked wonderful. I felt I recognized her, but I couldn't see her face. Perhaps it was Sam. No, Sam does not look like that. Sam is attractive, but the female I saw was bigger, right? Not fat. They only had curves. Plus, Sam is a blonde. The mystery girl wore dark hair. Tom grinned slightly. "You know, youngster, sometimes you see the same person every day, but you don't recognize them when you see them somewhere other than their customary spot. Anyway, this one was unique. I just need to think of which dark-haired women I know can walk on water. I warned you it was an odd story. The sun was bright, dancing on the waves. When she walked from the sun to me, that nasty shark was circling about, and I was attempting to remain still. When she walked through the waves towards me, I tried to shout about the shark, but she kept approaching. She bent down and lifted me from the water. The next thing I know, I am in bed with her. She was clutching me tightly, no sex or anything, just clutching what happened to me, Father. How did I get here? We aren't sure. We hoped you'd recall something. All we know is that Stephanie and her friend spotted you floating in the ocean with a severe head injuries. They transported you here aboard a large boat owned by a wealthy individual. Was anyone else in the water? No, kids, it's just you, if there was someone else. We've lost them. Two nurses walked in. One nurse, Marie Franco, spoke to them in English. "Now, Mr. Wainwright will assist you set up so you can clean yourself. Then we'll change the sheets." She stared at Tom. "Could you just leave us, sir? You can return in half an hour." I almost ran into Tom as he was leaving. "Morning. Clean up. He told us to come back in 30 minutes. "That is good. We need to talk. Something is going on. Let's get some breakfast." Eating croissants and drinking coffee. "We discussed what happened that morning, so, female, are they only seeking for one person? Because he has been inquiring about Samantha. They're simply looking for William. A wealthy individual is being discussed in the media. They said nothing about Samantha, so she must be all right. It's weird that they're hunting for him so far off the coast of Portugal. He was several miles away from where he fell in. They appear to be attempting to ensure that they do not locate anything. Doesn't seem good, does it? So what is the plan? Let us wait a little. Tom, give it a day or two. Watch how things turn out. It's time to reveal Samantha's secret to him. Actually, we should tell him everything we know. He has been dreaming about it. And you?" After eating, I returned to Will's room. Tom returned to our motel. As I walked in, Will gave me a look as if he was seeing me for the first time. He stopped me before I could get close. "Stop right there, Miss Fletcher. Shoes off." "What? You have heard me. Your shoes." So I pulled off my shoes one at a time, holding them in my left hand and going carefully. "Now your skirt." "No, come on, Steph. I am not." "Well, entertaining me." I unhooked and unzipped my skirt. With a little wiggle, it slid down. I felt bare and vulnerable. Will was watching me. I felt like I was just wearing my tiny silk panties to hide myself. I stepped out of my skirt and stood there. "Now take off your blouse." "Well, this feels wrong. Please don't." "What is the big deal? Your underwear is no more ostentatious than a swimsuit. I suppose they're actually slimmer," I explained as I unfastened the buttons. I lowered my blouse off my shoulders, hands up front. I felt his gaze on me. You are the girl from my dreams. Can you actually walk on water? Can I dress up before answering?" He nodded. I turned and began picking up my clothes. "Fletcher, you have a terrific body. How come I had never seen it before?" I started buttoning my shirt. "It's been here all along. Now you sound like an elderly man." I hitched up my skirt and tucked my shirt in. I put on my shoes and sat down. "No, I cannot walk on water. So what was all this about?" He revealed his dreams. I told him about the rescue and how Bruce and I rushed to save him. "How did you realize I was in the water? And where can you find me?" "So remember the business we got? The one in Ramsgate that manufactured boat gear? We thought they made great products that we could offer to major manufacturers. One item was a life jacket that used a C battery to track your whereabouts. We purchased new jackets for BJ. There's also a boat tracker. The same tech who finds the boat also discovers functional life jackets. The boat I was on has an internet-capable satellite phone. So as the sea reached the battery, I began sending a smart signal. I thought so when it appeared while I was working. It took me a moment to comprehend it. When I did, I informed Bruce, who rushed to collect you. How about Sam and Ryan? They must have witnessed my tumble. Why didn't they aid me? I apologize, Will, but it's worse. They didn't even admit it happened. BJ continued going. No, there must be a cause, maybe a large wave. They said you got lost off Portugal last night. The search will be too late and at the wrong location. Don't you recall anything? I don't recall much since we left Guernsey. I don't understand why they left me. You have a lot of money, Will. No, you are wrong. Sam would not do that. What about Ryan? Maybe, but why would he do this? You're wealthy and have foes. Some could pay to see you depart. However, I believe it is less complex. I discussed the hotel bill mess. I showed him the booking confirmation and Mr. and Mrs. Wainwright's names. I got CCTV footage from the Grand's eatery. Here's Ryan and Samantha with his arm around her. I showed Will the photograph on my laptop. It's not conclusive proof. I might have remained silent if not for this. We'll just sit there stunned and angry. The snake. That's why she stayed behind. To cheat on me. Hello? Remember Annabelle's smile? Helga and others? Doesn't this count as cheating? That is different. They were only for one night. Not a true affair. And that's fine. Because you are a man. I'm not saying I am correct, but if she had been among us, it would not have happened. Alternatively, if you had stayed at home more, she might not have gone to Ryan. Which side are you on, Steph? You tell me. She is a cheater. Now you're standing up for her. I'm saying it's not all black and white. There were no signs of her cheating until around 6 weeks ago. You were gone for 3 months from home, just a few days. I am not on her side. I don't understand why she would risk everything for flings with Ryan. If she did cheat, why? Come on, BJ, with the two of you. What makes her think of a threesome? I mean, being with her lover and her sidekick nearby. Didn't she realize it was asking for trouble? There was a strange silence. It most likely did not enter her thoughts. If anything doesn't involve Sam, it doesn't exist. To her, suggesting she isn't the brightest would be insulting. Let's just say she frequently misses the larger picture. She seems overly simplistic. We'll be quiet for a while. I knew better than to leap in. He was really considering what to do next. I sat and waited. He soon started wondering. Who knows? I'm here. Steph. It's just me, your father, Bruce, doctors, and nurses. I kept it quiet until we realized how horrible it was. How long will it be before everyone else knows? Now that the news has spread, I'm not sure. But maybe if your father talks to the doctor, we can obtain a few extra days. What can my dad do to keep them quiet? Mention your grandfather. He was at number 1. Commandos took part in the massive raid in 1942. He is a hero around here. That was news to me. He died when I was a small child. Dad never informed me. He stated that to me after I explained where you were. Then my phone vibrated. Sir George McMahon called about the assistance offer. I let Will listen in. I told Sir George that we needed a few days, and he agreed. We all looked puzzled. As we were wrapping up the call, I had an idea. Sir George, I haven't spoken with Will about this yet. I am aware. I follow the news, young lady. Do not believe everything you read, Sir George, and you promise to be quiet? I believe it would be advantageous for you to allow a takeover, especially if you may gain from the company's takeover. I need to talk to Will about it, but we may all benefit greatly from this situation. Are you telling me that he wasn't lost at sea? I'm asking you to wait until I speak with Will. We said goodbye, and I hung up. When I turned to face Will, he seemed angry. Do you want to tell me what that was about? Did you just cancel the Macmillan deal by yourself? I had no choice. The boat I was on was Sir George's saving. You made us late. I wasn't sure what to do, so I kept it secret until now. I made Sir George an offer so he wouldn't question why the boat was late. He was unhappy with me. I needed to make a call. And you were too ill to help. And what is the plan you mentioned? If Sir George provides us some shares and receives some from our company in exchange, he will profit when we do our thing. Then he can repurchase his company at a low cost while maintaining profitability. 2. Do you think he will say yes? He might if we sell it as a method to keep his wife away from the company while also hiding some money. It could work for both of us. You've been paying attention, right? You're ready to dive in. What happens now? Will you run the show while I am here? Try out the discounts. See if you can handle it. Stop, Will. Just quit. I am not trying to steal your position. I'm doing my job and looking out for you. Why not take over? If I were you, I would. You know how. Now I am stuck here. Why not go for it? Don't talk about loyalty. Only fools remain faithful. Then call me a fool. Call your father a fool. Call this city a fool because it remembers people like your grandfather. I realized I was yelling at him and attempted to calm down. Tears streamed down my face as I spoke. I do not like what we do. If I left, I would not do what we do. But you still accept the money, don't you? You have not said no to any extra money, he fired back. The tears flowed quicker. I sprang up and ran out. It took me 10 minutes in the ladies' room to relax. I cleansed my face and applied a bit of makeup before returning to Will's room. He started speaking, but I stopped him off. It's none of your business, but I've donated a lot of that money to sick individuals and children, so I didn't say no to it. You gave everything away. I don't really know you, do I? He asked. I remained quiet. Listen, Steph, I apologize for what I said. I trust you. I owe you my life. I was out of line. Will you forgive me? I'll forgive you because the doctor indicated you might act strangely for a while. He smiled. That smile always appealed to me. Did you actually give everything away? Most of it. They needed it more than I did. He continued to smile and shake his head. Tom returned when Dr. Montan did. The doctor was his normal cheery self, but he glanced at Will strangely. Mr. Wainwright, you have confused me. This morning I heard on the radio that millionaire William Wainwright jumped off his boat last night. But that can't be Mr. Wainwright, as he's been here for 3 days. And the man they mentioned went missing last night near Portugal. Then they aired his photo on television. And it was you. So, do you travel through time like Doctor Who? And did I heal you before you disappeared? I'm sorry, Doc, but I can't say much. Tom pulled the doctor aside for a quick conversation. He told the entire story and explained why we kept it quiet. Tom asked whether we may keep. We will stay here. Please be quiet for a little while. Talking about his father's valiant actions during a major raid. Mr. Wainwright. I'll do my best to keep it quiet. It's simple because everyone assumes you'd be located in Portugal. All I ask is that when you do share the news, contact our local publication. We're seeking to raise funding for a new CT scanner. Your Num-1 Commando story is popular around here. Tom offered the doctor a nice pat on the back. Dr. Montand, for everything you've done for my son, supporting your scanner is the least we can do. I know you have tests to complete. Please keep us in the loop. My son and I have not always seen eye to eye. He might not tell me everything. Tom urged me to leave, but I stayed to hear what was going on. We waited outside for what seemed like forever. The doctor finally emerged, not looking so pleased. Just like I said, his mind appears to be good, but what about his motor skills? Not very much. He struggles to control his left leg. He has good reflexes and feels pain but is unable to fully regulate it. It could be from his head injuries. He could improve, but he may need to relearn how to walk. Tom appeared gloomy, but I tried to remain optimistic. But he still will. Wainwright, everything that defines him is still there. It's difficult to say, mademoiselle. Physical hardships can transform a person. He's seen death up close. It frequently alters how one perceives the world. We'll keep him here for a few more days to avoid any further complications. Then you can take him home. Your doctors will need to focus on getting him to walk again. Will was quiet when we returned to his room. He appeared really sad that day. Steph, you got exactly what you wanted. You're alone with Sir George. I'll be out of the game for a bit. My plans to shake up the business world are on hold. That's not correct. You are already aware of this. I merely desired your safety. I've stated that before. I do not want to govern your empire. Now, without this female, you would not be here, so back off. You've got some tough breaks. We get it. However, your mother would be astonished to hear you snap at her. Tom stared at me. You go, gal. Get some lunch and take a break. I will handle Mr. Moody here. When I returned later, the Rolling Stones were playing, and the father and son were debating. They are all over the place. It's a mess, Will said. Well, son, it's like life. Allowing folks to do their own thing can sometimes be beneficial. It's only noise. Tell him, Steph, I really like it. The Stones were my father's best. His go-to was the Midnight Rambler. See, she knows good music. We'll sit there with our hands over his ears, pretending to be children in order to avoid trouble. The big wigs he faced in business would be surprised to see him like this. I pointed my phone at him. I am going to photograph this and share it. Will Wainwright was caught demanding attention. Do not dare. Give it over, Fletcher, he implored. Tom interrupted our joking by claiming he was going to dinner. Dr. Montand's buddy had come to meet him. Someone from the memorial group. After Tom left, things became quiet. Well, they looked at me differently. He looked at me as if he had never seen me before. It made me uneasy, so I spoke out. You two are getting along well now. What? Oh, you're talking about Dad and me? Yeah. I've been having fun taunting him. It seems to be making you happy. Yes. I worked out that I can continue to work from a wheelchair until I can walk again. And I'll walk. You know, I have never doubted you. I offered him a smile. He stared at me again. How old are you, Steph? 26, 27, I'm 29, but it is none of your concern. Got anybody special? A 29-year-old lady must consider getting married. I thought about it, but I'm too busy to date. I would expect males to be all over you. A girl like you should have to shove them away. Perhaps I did, and they became bored of it. Their loss. So no one will take you away from me. It doesn't appear so. Good, good. Tell me what you propose to do with Sir George. I explained the strategy and added that Sir George had called after seeing the news. I inquired if everything was all right. Did you tell him I'm fine? I assured him he had nothing to worry about. He seemed fine with it. Great. Do you think you will be able to get the company now that Sir George has put his trust in you? Really? Of course. He probably trusts you more than me. I'm here to assist, but you probably won't need it. Because you are so trusting of me. You will not mind my intentions for your recovery. We discussed treatment and how to make his place work for him. We tried to decide what to do with Sam and Ryan, but couldn't agree. As night fell, Will suggested I return to the motel. You and Dad require rest. I will be all right. Alone. I had to restrain myself from kissing him. Instead, I simply said goodnight and departed. Ryan felt better lying close to Sam. He informed the persons in charge that a man had gone overboard. He had taken one more significant step. If he could just keep Sam calm, they might be able to get away with it. He hoped the strategy had remained the same. If Sam had flown to Gibraltar, she would not have witnessed what happened. He assumed that witnessing that terrified her out. Perhaps he should have waited till they were returning home from their trip. He considered it a trip, but everyone knew Will Wainwright didn't take many travels. Even now, he planned to return to London for work. How could a lady love someone who always put work first? Sam deserved someone better. Someone who could provide her with the care she needed. He moved closer to Sam and fell asleep quickly. Sam pretended to be asleep while tears streamed down her cheeks. Ryan had to confront the officials with the fact that Will had vanished and it was her responsibility. How could she have been so dumb? Ryan was only a youngster. How was he expected to live with what she had done? She was now in a position where she needed to lie to the people of Gibraltar and convince them to trust her. The alternative was to face charges for homicide. It wasn't correct. She did not want any of this. She felt Ryan close behind her. It took everything she had not to leave him. Knowing her life was now intertwined with Ryan's did not make her feel any better. She awoke alone. A buzzing sound was heard from above. She got out of bed and walked into the bathroom to take a shower. When she came up on deck, she noticed Ryan was delighted. "We are working on setting more sails." Sam noticed the sound that startled her up was from a machine hoisting the sail. The sea was calm, and BJ moved quickly on the water. "We'll arrive at Gib by tomorrow night. I intend to anchor outside and return with the engine the following day." Samantha simply nodded, staring at the deck. "Cheer up, Sam, it's almost done. The cops in Gibraltar may ask us a few questions, but in a week, we may be enjoying the Mediterranean with our entire group. Have a fantastic time. I just want to go home." Ryan halted. "Yes, it might be better. More normal. We may fly home and leave the yacht in Gibraltar. We can always return in a few months. Do not be sad. I observed something this morning that will make you happy. Look to the left, up front." Sam stepped to the boat's left side, leaned out, and gazed forward. At first, she noticed nothing. She looked at Ryan and then back at the sea. Soon, she noticed them jumping ahead of the boat. Dolphins. Are those dolphins? Yes, they are. They've been with us for around an hour. If you walk to the front, you might observe them playing in the waves created by the boat. Samantha approached the front of the yacht and leaned over, just underneath the surface. She could see them, 2 on one side and 3 on the other, playing in the water propelled by the boat's front. At first, she was filled with excitement. They seemed so close. Then she remembered Will and how sailors saw dolphins as good luck. Looking down, she addressed them. "You are too late. Will was in need of your luck, and now he is gone. I am not the person who should have your luck. Where were you when he needed you?" She knew the animals couldn't hear or understand her words, but she needed to express her feelings with someone, and telling Ryan wasn't an option. "Will stated you were the smartest person in the sea. You don't fight each other, right? Because you are angry or jealous. You look out for one another, right? Like a team, all for one. One for everyone. They're kind of like those old-time heroes. Why can't we become more like you?" She kneeled at the boat's edge, attempting to touch the marine creatures below. Even from the low side, her fingertips were miles away from the water. She leaned out more just as she began to tip over before she could yell. She felt a hand grab her jeans waistband. "You are a dumb fool! Are you trying to injure yourself?" Ryan said as he yanked her back onto the deck. "I knew you wanted to see him, but I didn't expect you to try to leap in. I was not. She trailed off, catching Ryan's grin. "See, this is a positive sign. Everything will be all fine." "I certainly hope so," Sam thought to herself, hoping Will will be fine by the time they arrived in Gibraltar. That hope kept her going long after the dolphins had left. She felt lighter and did not push away. Ryan got close that night. The next day, both were upbeat, and Sam was overjoyed with the sight of the Spanish coast in the distance. It was late afternoon, and she wanted they could get to Gibraltar before nightfall, but Ryan was determined to stay in Spanish seas and return to port the next day. He began working on the canvas once all of the sails were down. By night, he was finished. As Sam prepared dinner, he began to make a sling. After eating, he summoned her out and handed her a winch handle. "I need you to whack me on the arm with this. I told the Coast Guard I was hurt, so I need to have a mark to prove I can't. Hurting others is not my thing. Do not be silly. I'm not asking for much. Just a bruise. Now I'll extend my arm, and you'll hit it with this. Do not look at me. I can't do it, if you are watching." Ryan extended his arm and glanced away. Sam raised the winch handle high and slammed it down forcefully. Ryan shouted out due to the acute pain. "Ouch! Sam! You were only supposed to hit it, not almost pull it off." He grimaced as he placed his arm in a sling. "I apologize. I wasn't sure how hard I was supposed to hit." Sam went to the medication cabinet and brought back ibuprofen and paracetamol. Ryan knew his arm was fractured by the time he went to bed. He slipped into bed, sleeping only in between dosages of painkillers. He finally fell asleep soundly at 8 a.m. Samantha allowed him to sleep until noon. Then she awoke him with coffee. "You okay? Can you give a lesson?" "I believe I can, but I will need help." "Does it still hurt?" "Yes, quite a bit, but less than last night. Sorry, I did not mean to hit so hard. What happens next?" "Now we're bringing the boat into port. Report everything and wait. The cops will want to discuss. Remember when the storm started, Will got up, said we had too much sail out, and went up to mend it. You heard him call out for assistance. When I arrived on deck, he was gone. I was bringing in the sails when the wind caught the last one. The boom swung and I raised my arm. This is how I got harmed. I requested assistance, but was only able to have the computer navigate us in due to my arm. Maybe it's good that you hit so hard. It gives it a more realistic appearance. Can you really sail us in with one hand? I will call the port. Request assistance in tying us up." They ate breakfast, and Ryan turned on the radio to the port. He started the motor, raised the anchor, and made sail for Gibraltar Harbor. Ryan pointed the boat in the direction he wanted to go. The harbor boss instructed him, and a dock worker was immediately available to assist. Samantha controlled the speed, while Ryan handled the steering. When they came close, Ryan hurled the rope, which the worker tied down. Ryan went to the harbor boss's office, performed what he needed to do, and then called for a taxi to the hospital. Following my conversation with Dr. Montand, I began to plot how to bring Will back to Britain. Booking a private plane was simple, but getting him into the country required his passport, which was safe on the BG-2. In an ideal world, a few phone calls would resolve the situation. But that is not how the British Home Office operates. They required us to state that the old passport had been lost or stolen, and to complete a form for a new one, attach 2 images, and pay a cost. It took 20 minutes to buy the flight, and 2 full days to process the passport. During those days, news spread that Will was still alive. Will was improving in those days. His left leg was not working properly, but he was able to move with crutches. Leaving the hospital will be in a wheelchair. We were surrounded by reporters and cameramen who were all asking questions. I came up and gave them something to gnaw on. Mr. Wainwright was involved in a serious sailing accident and suffered severe head injuries, but he was rescued and transported here. He is grateful to the doctors and the entire crew for their excellent work. He's currently focused on returning home and beginning his physical treatment. If I believed that would calm things down, I was wrong. They still pushed us around, making it difficult to reach the taxi. Tom attempted to shove through them. Then he noticed a TV guy and his camera friend blocking our path to the cab, so he got in close and said, "Listen, buddy, maybe you missed it, but my kid is badly hurt and he doesn't need your microphones and cameras in his face. So you have 2 possibilities. Either you move aside or your friend films me putting that camera where the sun doesn't shine." I looked down and saw Will smiling as his 60-year-old father stood up to 2 younger men as they moved, and the cameraman opened the taxi door for us. We were stunned. Tom and I helped Will get into the cab. Tom sat down and glanced out the window. "Damn vultures," he mumbled of the pressman. "We will touch his father's arm. Seeing you like this, I understand how you created your business. You're tough when you need to be, and I simply did what I had to, son." I giggled while looking at them. It appears that you aren't all that different from him. I considered arguing, but he also laughed. Samantha just waited 20 minutes before hearing someone call outside. She went to visit Inspector Garcia from the local police on the pier and asked to come on board. I need to inquire about your husband's disappearance, Mrs. Wainwright. Sam allowed him in and recounted him the narrative Ryan had told her, crying frequently. Inspector Garcia waited, allowing her to talk freely. She expected him to just listen and then leave, but he proceeded to ask questions. Did Mr. Wainwright have any financial troubles? No, I do not think so. I mean, look where we are, Inspector. Does this look like a boat? A man with financial problems would have. It's difficult to say, Mrs. Wainwright. Things in the business world can change rapidly. But thanks for allowing me to take a look. It helps you comprehend the man. So, how about you? 2 items. Okay, yes. Why? It was only an accident. I'm certain it was. But with no one present to witness it, I had to investigate everything. When an experienced sailor, such as Mr. Wainwright, falls into the sea and vanishes, we need to ask some difficult questions. Could I take a look inside? Samantha led him through the boat. The inspector admitted he knew little about boats, but appeared to be very interested. He asked to see Ryan's sleeping quarters, so she showed him the crew's modest room. How many people does it typically take to sail this? You can accomplish it on your own. It's all powered by computers. But we did not believe that was safe, so he requested at least 2. He enjoyed sailing it. That is why we did not receive a crew in Britain. I was supposed to fly out first. Then he'd sail BJ here and we'd meet up with the crew. We wanted to simply enjoy our time together. Why did the plans change? Will has been away a lot. I simply wanted to be near to him and Ryan Betts. How was his relationship with Mr. Wainwright? Yes, they got along, they shared something. They both did not like their fathers. Why is that, Mrs. Wainwright? I'm not sure about Will. He never spoke about it. Ryan was kind of a troublemaker, and with a horrible bunch, his father basically cut him off. He manages the boatyard that looks after BJ. Will gave him a job, the sole work on board, but he needed to remain out of trouble. Mrs. Wainwright, you've stated that your husband is still here. He seems to be quite alive. Do you believe he did not die? Samantha wailed again, attempting to speak between sobs. I must hope, Inspector. I realize it's unlikely. Nobody has seen him since the sea is so chilly, but I must hope. The inspector held her hand. Of course you must. I'm sorry for making you sad. He stood up and looked back at Samantha. We need to bring the crime scene investigators here to inspect the boat, just for the legal case. Do you get it? What do you mean by criminal scene? It was only an accident. It's simply what we name them, Mrs. Wainwright. Before we can declare your husband has left for good, there should be a judicial case. The judge will want me to look at every possibility. The crime scene team might discover what happened. It was most likely an accident, but perhaps he chose to leave. Perhaps he created the illusion that he had vanished. Odd things have happened. The inspector did not speak out loud. He had another thought. Murder. When will this crew arrive, Inspector? Very soon, within the next hour. They'll need your fingerprints and DNA to check them off. You cannot stay on the boat while they work. Perhaps you would like to see how Mr. Betts is doing in the hospital. Samantha was frightened when the inspector left. Ryan had not mentioned anything about going to court or searching the yacht. She wanted to shout at the inspector. It was murder. I watched him do it. I could not stop him. I attempted to make him go back, but she remembered what Ryan had said. They were together secretly. If Will was no longer alive, she would inherit everything. Nobody would assume she was innocent, especially because she had not been forthcoming with the cops. She could only wait for the crime squad and hope they discovered nothing. Ryan was with the doctor who examined the bone images. Did this happen 2 days ago? The doctor inquired. Yeah, about 2 or 3 days now. Something hit hard and I used my hand to protect him. Odd. Well, my duty is to fix you up, not to ask too much. Based on what I observe, you've definitely busted your radius. We need to repair it and wrap it up so it stays still while it heals. We can numb it for you. You can depart today. If we make you sleep, you will stay until tomorrow. Ryan chose the numb option. He wanted to get back to Samantha before explaining too much. He was glad he was in Gibraltar, where the cops weren't too harsh. If this had happened on his trip home, he would have had to deal with the British authorities. He'd had problems with them before and didn't think Samantha would manage them well. His arm quickly became so dead that he felt nothing. The doctor manipulated the bone, bringing the shattered ends back together, then let the nurses finish up. As he exited the emergency room, the doctor wasn't surprised to see Inspector Garcia arrive. "Good day, Dr. Etheridge. I understand you just saw Mr. Betts. What is his story?" "Good day, Inspector. I thought I might see you. There's something strange about that dude. Come on, I'll show you the bone images." In his room, the doctor displayed 2 bone photo folders. "Look here." He put up an image. "This patient injured their arm 2 days ago. I corrected it myself. See the hazy bit near the break? That is healing in action." He swapped the pictures. "This is Mr. Betsy's arm, which he claims was injured 2 to 3 days ago. You can see that the break is still new. After 2 days, no hard skin has grown. I believe we would need to break the arm again before resetting it. So, you're saying his breaks are newer than he claimed?" "I believe so. If you want to guess, I'd say it happened within the last day. When does he leave the hospital? As soon as his cast is solid and we've dealt with his suffering. Definitely in the next hour. I'll have an officer here to transport Mr. Betts to the station. Thank you, Doctor." Inspector Garcia reflected deeply on his trip back to the station. A man was reported to have gone overboard and vanished. 2 other people on the boat noticed nothing peculiar. He now knew that Ryan Betts lied to the Coast Guard about his injury, as did Mrs. Wainwright. Nonetheless, Mrs. Wainwright appeared to be very distressed. The lies disturbed him. He knew from previous situations that lying frequently hid more. At the station, he contacted the forensic team. "Hello, Dennis. Got anything?" "Give us time, Joe. We just got here. Knowing what to look for can help." "I get that, but I'm in the dark here. It could be foul play or something else, but they're hiding something. Have you tested for blood yet? Don't rush. Joe will find it if it is present." "Sorry, Dennis. I just want to find a hint. I know there is something. I honestly don't know. What? Where is Mrs. Wainwright?" "She headed for the hospital to check on their deckhand shortly after we arrived." "Okay. Thank you, Dennis." His next phone call was to a hospital officer. "John, did Mrs. Wainwright show up there?" "Yes, boss. She arrived just after you left." "Great. Bring her inside with Mr. Betts and John. Make sure they understand they are not in jeopardy. Just here to help us, okay?" "I get it, boss." "Thank you, John." When Ryan arrived at the police station, he was plainly angry. As Joseph Garcia entered, Inspector Garcia led him and Samantha to separate rooms for a conversation. Ryan did not conceal his irritation. However, the inspector said nothing until he sat across from Ryan. "Now, Mr. Betts, why don't you tell me everything about Mr. Wainwright's disappearance? I've already informed the harbor master. Yes, I understand they told me to look into it. Then you understand what I said. I want to hear that again, Mr. Betts. A man has disappeared and he may have died. We have to work this out. You don't think a couple hours of your time is enough to find out what happened to him? Now explain me in your own words what happened the night Mr. Wainwright went missing." Ryan began his story, and the inspector observed it was remarkably identical to Samantha's. He waited for Ryan to finish before asking any further questions. "Where do you sleep? Mr. Betts, are you on the ship?" "What? Why does this matter? Just respond, if you will. Inside the crew's cabin, where else?" "That's it, Mr. Betts. When I examined the ship this morning, there was no trace of anyone staying in the crew cabin or using the restrooms. Is that what you call them on a ship, sir?" "Yes, that's correct. But I still don't see your point." "It is simple, sir. Mrs. Wainwright showed me around the yacht this morning, and the only room that appeared to be in use was Mr. and Mrs. Wainwright's. If Mrs. Wainwright slept there, where were you? I'm trying to figure out why you didn't appear on deck until after Mr. Wainwright had gone over the edge. Then a cop went in and gave Joe Garcia a note. Joe read it and returned to the conversation. "Sir, we have a new issue. It appears that blood has been detected in the ship's steering section. Do you know anything about it?" "What? No. Maybe Will was harmed before falling into the sea. Perhaps he, like myself, was hit by a moving section of the ship." "Oh, you are injured. That happened when Mr. Wainwright got lost, right? Of course, you are aware of this. But here's the point, sir. The doctor claims it occurred less than a day ago. No, the doctor is mistaken." Then another knock and another note arrived. After reading, the inspector stood up. "Excuse me, sir." He rushed out of the room. "What's happening?" he yelled inside the main office. "It's on the news now, sir," remarked the man behind the desk. "They showed him leaving a hospital in France." "Oh no. Has the scene crew been informed yet?" Not yet, sir. Inspector Garcia snatched the phone quickly. Dennis, please pack up everything you found and leave. What do you mean, leave? Joe, we are on to something major here. We discovered an oar with blood, hair, and blood on the ground. I assumed this was a dead end, but it seems like we're getting close. He has been found, Dennis, so it appears there is no crime after all. Simply take what you have and lead your squad out. What's with the paddle, Joe? It has a lot of prints on the huge end. If someone was slain, I'd bet on this tool. Bring it here, Dennis. Who knows? Perhaps this will assist us find out what happened. For the time being, I've got to let these two go. I dislike it, but without a crime, I am unable to hold them. Okay, Joe, see you later. The inspector hung up and went to the room Samantha was taking her to, where Ryan was waiting. Good news for you two. Mr. Wainwright is still alive. He recently left a hospital in France. How did he go from Portugal to France? I'm not sure, but it should clear up soon. Samantha appeared to be about to faint and required assistance in standing while Ryan sat quietly. When she was feeling better, she looked at the inspector. You're not joking, right? Will is actually alive. Yes, ma'am. It was in the news. He's on his way to London presently. Thank you so much, Inspector. She turned to face Ryan. He is alive. Ryan, is he alive? Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Inspector. Can we leave now? Sir, you are always free to go. Thank you for helping us out. We have no more questions right now. Thank you again for coming. As they departed the station, Joe Garcia informed his sergeant. I tell you, John, something's up with those two. But without a crime to investigate, my hands are tied. Ryan hurriedly went out of the station with Samantha, hoping to keep up. Ryan, slow down. It's okay now. He is alive. Be silent and hurry. But we no longer have to run. He is alive. Don't be dumb. We still have to run. If he tells anyone what we did, we'll both go to jail for attempted murder. I don't want to be locked up for 5 or 10 years, all the way back to the boat. Samantha attempted to talk to him, but Ryan persisted. When they arrived at the boat, Ryan removed the front rope and stepped onto it. I grabbed the rear rope. He shouted at Samantha as she approached. She grabbed up the rope and hurled it into the boat from the dark edge. He reached out to help her along. I'm not coming, Ryan. I will stay here. No, you are not, he murmured, reaching out and grasping her legs as he drew her into the boat. They both fell in the boat. Ryan jumped up quickly, started the engine, and maneuvered the boat away from the dock. As Sam rose up, he instructed her to go below and remain there. Turning the boat, he accelerated and headed for the open water. What are you going to do about Sam and the guy? Tom inquired when we boarded the plane. I am not sure yet. Where are they now, Steph? I can't say right now. We don't have the internet on this plane. I know they got to Gibraltar today. Do you remember anything about what occurred? I'm not sure if this is a real recollection or a dream, but I think I remember something. I'm directing one moment and then being pulled on the ground the next. After they told me I was lost off the coast of Portugal, I assumed something horrible had happened. As soon as we land, I believe I will contact the British police. Shouldn't we have informed the police in France because it was closer? I asked. No, it's not their problem. We were not in French waters. Our boat is from Southampton. Thus, it is considered British territory. Hopefully, they are still in Gibraltar. However, there is a business concern. When they stated you were gone, Henry and Charles abandoned us. They're going with Jeffrey Endicott. It's not a huge thing, really. Endicott can have them. Are Robert, James, and Rebecca still with us? Yeah. I told them to wait a little. They know they can easily get another employment, so they decided to stay. I was scared Will might rush back to work, so I was relieved he was fine with me, booking him into St. Mary's Hospital for a checkup and some physiotherapy. He simply went with it. Having an ambulance meet us directly from the plane at City Airport kept the reporters away. I got Will comfortable at St. Mary's. I contacted the police. Within an hour, I was in a room at Scotland Yard, telling Sergeant Robson and later Inspector Davies what I knew about Will's condition. I told them everything. They puzzled why I hadn't mentioned Will's existence, but when I did, Ryan and Sam slipped up. Demonstrating Will's accident was planned. When I hinted at a covert affair, they demanded all the evidence. I have to dig into this. As I was leaving, I asked the inspector, what happens next? He seemed certain of the following steps. Miss Fletcher, we've got enough to pursue an arrest warrant for attempting to kill someone and maybe plotting it. I need to hear it from Mr. Wainwright, and I can do so in the hospital. You mentioned the boat was in Gibraltar. It was the last time I checked, Inspector. I'll phone the Gibraltar police and bring them in. Ryan left Gibraltar and headed for Casablanca, full of wrath. Will made it, which makes me upset. Samantha's decision to remain in Gibraltar irritates me. He couldn't fathom her decision unless she was planning to turn testimony against him. That thought bothered him even more. Why could she not see? Was everything he did just for her? He had to help her. See? He hoped that a day in Morocco might help him. Consider making a plan. Samantha was only familiar with Casablanca through an old Humphrey Bogart film. It was a place for love, but Ryan's been there before. He realized it was just a busy harbor. He showed her around as they headed to grab supper for BJ. Sam wasn't pleased. Ryan's actions in Gibraltar had made her furious. She felt stuck. With BJ prepared to go, the filthy streets of Casablanca were shattering her dream. He had a plan. He had no idea BJ was being tracked, so he assumed he might escape. The cops. They set out in the morning for Madeira. 4 hours later, he turned and followed a cruise ship, attempting to hide by following its voyage back to the African coast. They then merged in with the other ships returning to the Mediterranean. By dark, they had returned to the vicinity of Gibraltar. Ryan thought sailing at night in the Mediterranean was too unsafe, so he anchored near Tangier. He couldn't quit thinking about running away. He spent the day trying to figure out how Will was still alive. He believed he had hit him hard enough to kill. Alternatively, the Atlantic should have taken him. He looked and found that no ship could have saved him that quickly. Perhaps it was a trick. Perhaps. The cops stated that Will was alive to witness what they did. If that's the case, he's made a huge mistake. The more he reflected, the less he believed it. After all, if that was the goal, they would have been caught attempting to escape the port. After he lowered the anchor, he walked down to speak with Sam. He considered letting her go to land, but quickly changed his mind. He realized she was terrified and wanted to reach out to those who could help her. He promised himself that he would eventually prove to her that he could keep her safe. He needed a plan before sailing back into the Med. He'd done something unexpected. Now he would continue to surprise Sam by giving her the medical vacation she had been promised. The only catch was that he had to avoid spots where the port workers may be. What up? Spain and Italy were out. The Greeks were more relaxed, especially on the islands. While people were looking for them in the Canaries, they were enjoying the Mediterranean before sneaking across the Suez Canal. He knocked on Sam's cabin door. "Sam, open up! We need to talk!" She answered the door, and her expression indicated that convincing her of anything would be difficult. "So you've added kidnapping to your list of accomplishments. Don't assume you'll remain the night here unless you want to get another terrible grade." "Cool it, Sam. You would have gotten on the boat. We simply didn't have time to converse. We had to leave quickly before the cops figured everything out. That's when you go wrong. I would not have listened to you. I planned to take the first flight home. He needs me now. I was going to see him. You would have ended up behind prison. I saved you from it. Now let me in. No, you have trapped me, but you will not have me anymore. Oh, come on, Sam, you are not imprisoned. Then let me go to the land. You can, and you will allow me in. Let us chat. No, now let me be." She locked the door behind him, and Ryan went to where the crew slept. He lay down in an attempt to sleep, but it was difficult to do so. His mind was flooded with what-ifs. He considered getting caught. In a way, it was fortunate that Will Wainwright was still alive. The trouble involved in attempting to murder is far less than that of actually killing. He attempted to envisage life in jail. He'd heard stories about older, harsher males picking on the younger ones. When he was confident that they would not be apprehended, he began to consider their next steps. They couldn't stay with BJ forever. As he tossed and twisted, a thought occurred to him. Perhaps the answer was right there beneath him. BJ was worth several millions, as his father had stated. All he needed to do was find a method to sell it. He knew certain people in the boating industry, and some of them were not very clean. It was only about reaching out. He planned to start making calls as soon as he touched down. Inspector Garcia banged his fist against the table as he hung up. "Yes, John, I knew it. I warned you they were up to no good." "Who are they, boss?" his sergeant inquired. "Young Betts and Mrs. Wainwright. It was evident that they were hiding something. I simply didn't have proof. Now I do. Let's go. John, go down to the harbor. I believe Betts will want a lawyer this time, boss. He seemed uneasy the last time. Allow him to have his lawyers. We are arresting them this time, and we will charge them if necessary." They dashed out of the office as they arrived at the harbor. Joe Garcia sensed a decrease in his heart. He directed his sergeant to where the boat should be. As he did, he saw BJ's 2 masts were missing. By the time they arrived at the unoccupied place, he was already seeing the Scotland Yard personnel laughing at him and his team. They returned to the police station, stopping by the harbor chief's office. As he entered his own office, he prepared for the call to England. "Inspector Davies, I'm Inspector Garcia with the Gibraltar Police. I have awful news, I'm afraid. BJ, 2 broke loose and took off from the harbor about 3 hours ago. She's traveling to Casablanca. I cannot believe what I am hearing. We asked that you perform one simple thing. Please keep them till we can obtain them. What type of humor crew do you have there?" "Wait a minute, Davies. You didn't offer us any reason to retain them until you called us. Perhaps if you had been speedier, we could have helped. Now, let me tell you about our crew. We dispatched a full crime scene investigation team to the boat, believing that something awful had occurred. Perhaps you don't want clues from a Joe crew like us. We even uncovered what appeared to be the weapon, which was bloodied and covered with hair. You probably won't need that from a squad as terrible as ours. Sorry, Inspector. I did not mean to snap, I was just mad." "So what have you got?" Joe Garcia told him about what happened that day, which included chatting to people. He stated he will send all of the clues. "Thank you, Inspector. Think you can capture them if they return?" "Of course. It's a shame you weren't sooner so we could have kept them." They ended the call when they had resolved the issue. Inspector Davies came to see Will the day after we returned to London, but he learned nothing new, save Will's statement that Samantha had nothing to do with attempting to harm him. He was still confused about what was real and what he thought he saw. I told him everything I knew about Samantha, her secrets, and how to find BJ's tracking device. He assured me that they would figure it all out and catch them as quickly as possible. At first, I was relieved that Will looked content with everything. The Will I knew would want to get back to work and urge us all to justify ourselves. This calmer Will was less bother, but it made me worry that he wasn't eager to return to his old self. As the days went, I noticed he wasn't working as hard as I expected, and was improving. He seemed okay just moving around in his wheelchair. I ended up assisting him more. The physiotherapists showed me how to help him get in and out of his wheelchair. I would lean over and he would grab my neck. Then I'd rise up and lift him off the chair. I'd done this several times before realizing it. Allow him a clean view of my chest. It was a mistake to stay in Will's additional room rather than have a nurse live with him. He didn't need medical assistance, just some support moving around. I helped him go into bed, sit in the shower, and get in and out of his wheelchair. I quickly became dissatisfied with the situation. What Samantha and Ryan had done to him made me furious. The man I loved was present, but all I saw was someone who appeared content with relying on others. One night, as I assisted him to bed, he held me close and kissed me. I pulled back, shocked at myself. "So what are you doing? Come on, Steph. I need a woman. I know you want this too." I slapped him. "Who are you and what did you do with Will Wainwright?" He seemed astonished when he stroked his cheek. "Sorry," I thought. "I mean," Father said, "do you think I doubt it? You haven't been thinking since you awoke in the hospital. I know that Will Wainwright liked to do things on his own. But now you're letting others do everything. I was fine with taking care of some things till you felt better. But you still demand more from me. Now you expect me to get into bed with you because you want a lady. Nope, it is not occurring. Not this way. I am done." I resigned. "What do you mean you quit? You can't simply quit. How about Sir George McMahon? He trusts you. You said you would handle it." I was about to tell him I could handle Sir George and a lot more on my own. All I needed were some assurances to get the banks to lend me enough money to complete the transaction myself. If it came down to it, Sir George could undoubtedly assist us gain the credit. Yes, I could go it alone. However, this would be detrimental to Will, and I did not want that. True. However, once the transaction is completed, I can do it from home. I'm out. I started to walk away from him. "Do not leave. Steph, I need you. Do not worry. I'll have a nurse come help you move around. I'm confident you can find the woman you're seeking for on your own." I walked into my room to pack. How could he have taken me for granted? I remembered how hard he struggled to win Samantha over, but he assumed he could simply pull me to his bed, so if he wanted me, he'd have to work for it. I was still angry when I called the agency and scheduled for a nurse to arrive the next day with my belongings in a suitcase. I took a cab to my little, gloomy apartment. By the morning, I worried if I had overdone it. The doctors had warned that he might not be the same man again, but I didn't anticipate him to alter so dramatically. I didn't feel like eating in the morning, so I had coffee before beginning work on taking over Macmillan Construction. My first lunch with Sir George confirmed that he was just as I had heard. He immediately suggested that we cut Will out. He also made a lot of flirtatious jokes. There's no shock. His wife sought a divorce. It was difficult to respectfully decline his advances. Finally, I had to state it straight. So, George, this arrangement is about making money from your firm while also allowing you to buy it back at a lower price. This is not about my appearance or who I see. If this is a problem, I will leave, and you can discuss this with Will Wainwright. I heard you had already departed Wainwright. When he touched my calf, I pressed my heel firmly into his foot. He drew back quickly, seeming hurt. Are we clear, Sir George? I might not be able to stand after that. So we're good. I thought Wainwright was wise, but losing you would be foolish. Sir George, don't worry about it. I get it. Just saying, he responded. Following that, Sir George was simple to work with. It helped me to stop thinking about Will. For 2 weeks, it was all work. He did not respond to any of his emails. Then Tom Wainwright arrived at my apartment. I invited him in, prepared coffee, and we sat down. So will you tell me what happened? Will claims you abandoned him. I told him what happened and how Will seemed to give up. He thought he'd never walk again. So you wanted to jolt him? I wanted him to see what he'd become. But it is more than that. He began acting as if he owned me solely because he paid me. I don't believe he truly thinks that way. Tom would not have treated Samantha the same way he treated me. Maybe not, girl, but I do know him. Leaving affected him hard. I'm confident that the nurse I've assigned to him will be helpful. He let her go the day after you departed. So how is he doing? He is moving. Girl, he spends much of his time in his wheelchair, although he can get in and out on his own, even getting into the car to head to work. Is he going to the office? Yep. Girl, and he's working quite hard in physio. Why are you telling me that, Tom? He did not send you, did he? He is completely unaware of my presence, but I know he needs you. I understand how you feel about him. It's crazy. You two are not together. He knows where I live. He exhaled. Yep, that's what I expected you to say. I had to try. You understand? Yes, Tom, thank you for caring, but it is now up to me and Will. He rose up to leave. By the way, he's getting divorced. I must have appeared astonished. The cops checked into your concerns and believed they were preparing something nasty. They have warrants out, makes the divorce process more straightforward. That's great for him, I suppose. I hope they capture them quickly. But Samantha's involvement seems unlikely. Maybe, girl. But she had an opportunity to come clean in Gibraltar. I don't see how they'd ever go back. Maybe you are correct, Tom. I hope everything turns out well. Thank you for stopping by. I kissed Tom's cheek. Do not go missing, Tom. I will stop by while I'm in town. Maybe we can have some food. I'd enjoy that. He grinned quickly and departed. Do not let go of him, girl. Then he was gone, leaving me to mull over what he said. Will be free soon, which should make me pleased. However, it simply made me unhappy. Sad for the couple, who appeared to be happy together, even if he were free. That didn't mean he chose me. I had been there all along, yet he still chose Samantha. Maybe he just doesn't want me. Not unless he has absolutely no choice. I wiped away my emotions and made a decision about my next step. I'd close the Macmillan deal and then move on. Inspector Davies entered the calm office space of Wainwright Enterprises. He introduced himself at the front desk and requested to meet with Mr. Wainwright. He was escorted inside a spacious office with a nice desk and a large leather sofa. Will emerged from behind the desk in his wheelchair to greet him. The inspector noted that it was quiet today. Yes, Inspector. Will said, this isn't the kind of job that gets easier sitting in one of these. He then struck the wheelchair. I am sad to hear that. This surprises me, though. You don't have to be up and moving to purchase and sell, correct? Of course, you are correct, but certain members of my staff believe that in order to be bright in business, you must be physically strong. My competitors have snatched them by claiming I can't keep up. Is Miss Fletcher not with you now? Asked the inspector. Oh, no, I hope not. Currently, she is working from home. That is good. I found her to be pretty sharp. That's the one. Yes, Inspector. So why did you want to see me? Have you captured my wife and Betty? No, not yet. Betts evaded us at Gibraltar and is now in African waters from which we are unable to get him. How? He is moving. He appears to be unaware that we are following him. For the time being, we are only watching. He has to land at some point, and we'll try to get the country to stop and pick him up. Then we can get him back. I get it. Was that all you wanted to tell me, Inspector? No, not only that. How much do you believe your boat is worth? There's a catch. Not just any boat. We paid $6 million for it and spent additional money to make it prettier. Why are you asking? Everything is clean on my end. I am sure it is, sir. I'm trying to figure out how Betts intends to break with it. It appears that he could sell your ship for a fraction of its cost and still exist. Well, somewhere far away. It won't be easy, Inspector. Boats must be listed, and anyone selling one must have the proper paperwork. My boat's paperwork is right here. You're probably correct, sir. However, fraudsters discover ways if they know the appropriate people. It is not difficult to falsify those documents in exchange for a large sum of money. I get your point. I don't know anyone personally, but I've heard of people in Marbella and possibly Mauritius or Seychelles. One of those places. If we're lucky, it'll be Marbella, but I won't be holding my breath. Betts avoids easy-to-reach locations. It appears that you have the situation under control. Thank you, sir. Say hello to Miss Fletcher for me. Will do. Thank you for the update. No problem, sir. I hope things improve for you soon. As he walked out. Well thought through. He did not need to work. He may just shut down the office and stop. Many people would do just that at this time, and he was confident that Samantha would keep him busy. But Samantha was gone, and what she liked did not match what he liked. He was Will Wainwright, and he wasn't going to give up. He wanted things to change, and he wasn't the sort to simply quit. The first step was to get out of the wheelchair, but that wouldn't stop him. He thought about Stephanie. He truly missed her. They gradually came closer. She got him. He realized he missed her more than his wife. Just seeing her helped him feel better. Davies was correct. She was not only attractive, but also intelligent, humorous, and skilled at her profession. Recently, she was the first person he thought of in the morning and the last at night. I had founded the company and purchased a large portion of Sir George's shares, leaving him with only 15% ownership. The initial discussions with other stockholders appeared positive. I was thinking about all of this as the doorbell rang among the crowd. I spotted a large cluster of flowers. I opened the door. Miss Stephanie Fletcher inquired, speaking from behind the flowers. Yes, that is me. I need you to sign these, miss. Could you please show me where I can store them so we can deal with the paperwork? I grabbed the clipboard from him, signed where necessary, returned it, and took the flowers from him. When he left, I carried the flowers to the kitchen for water. I took out the card and read it. I apologize. That was it. Only those words. And I was left wondering. I only wanted Will to say sorry, but I knew it would take long. After cutting the flowers and placing them in a vase on my desk, they looked lovely. They were irises and birds of paradise, with chrysanthemum and soft frieze. I'd hardly sat down to work when the doorbell rang again. When I saw another man holding large flowers, I felt both shocked and angry. Who mailed these? I asked him. Sorry, lady. I can't say if it isn't on the cards. Perhaps phone the shop. I just deliver them. I signed for and took the flowers. This lot was considerably bigger, and I wasn't sure I had enough pots. This time the card read, "Please forgive me," making me even more confused. I hoped they were from Will, but it didn't look like him. The doorbell rang again as I was putting the flowers in water. I rushed to the door, angry, and saw a man holding many long red roses. The flowers struck his face. I am done with this. How am I expected to work with so many interruptions? Have dinner with me tonight, he said. I recognized the voice right away but couldn't believe it. He lowered the flowers so that I could see him. Can you help me with these? It's hard to stand on one leg. I took the flowers and he grabbed his crutches from the door. How did you get here with these? I did not. I met the flower guy here. He even rang the doorbell. But you arrived here on crutches? Yes, I'm getting the hang of things now. So will you go out with one of your numerous followers, or will you dine with a crutch-wielding gentleman looking to hang out with a gorgeous lady? Mr. Wainwright, I don't believe you've ever actually required assistance, but since you asked, so wonderful. Yes, I would love to eat with you tonight. I guess I'll have to call Brad Pitt and let him down gently. But he will get it. Every one of us must pitch in. He grinned widely. If you're certain I'll be there at 7, I've got to run. Hospital supplies. I saw him slowly approach the lift, his left leg dragging but still moving. He entered, turned, smiled, and the doors closed as I brought the roses inside. I pondered about what he had said. Desperate for the company of an attractive woman, he claimed to have called me pretty and given me red roses. Did he understand what that meant? I spent the entire day wondering whether dinner was just that, or if Will had more in his heart. That night, I dressed my prettiest outfit and applied my makeup perfectly. He wanted beauty, and I strived to be just that. My doorbell rang at exactly 7 o'clock. I grabbed my wrap, assuming it was Thomas. Will had a driver, but it was Will. As soon as this leg heals, I will extend my arm to you. For now, I hope you're okay walking next to me. I'd be delighted to stroll with you. You could have sent Thomas. I would have understood. I believe my girl deserves to meet face to face. I'm becoming comfortable with these crutches, but soon I won't need them. I took his arm and we walked to his car. Tom smiled broadly as we got into the car and drove us to the diner. I had frequented this diner. We frequently took clients there, but this time it was me getting treated, which felt amazing. We'll make sure to exit the automobile first and come to meet me. We entered the diner together, and Oliver, the guy in charge of seating, greeted us. Mr. Wainwright, Miss Fletcher, it is great to see you again. Your normal place is ready. Thank you, Oliver. However, I have a problem, he stated, displaying his crotch. I need it to walk. Will I be able to get around? Okay. Do not worry, sir. I'll help you get to your destination. Then I will take care of it while you eat. As we focused on walking, Oliver delivered exactly what he promised. I looked at the other diners. Some felt guilty, some turned away, and a few stared as if he shouldn't be there. Knowing how difficult it was for him to walk made me glad to be with him. We sat down, chose our wine and starters, and Will began speaking. I've missed you, Stephanie. Ha, I thought you may. Missing out on office chats? Don't make it difficult, Steph. I get what you mean for the organization, but it isn't about work. I wake up thinking about you. When something happens, I always go to bed the same way. I suppose I have to inform Steph when I work on our projects. I want to chat to you. I need you back in my life. I couldn't believe my ears. For years, I had anticipated this moment. The agony of seeing him chase after Mary, Samantha, had been too much. I had considered leaving, unable to bear seeing him every day and knowing he was seeing someone else. Time passed, and I became accustomed to the way things were. My affection for him made me joyful for him. When he and Samantha got close again after Ryan attempted to harm him, I began to hope that he may love me again. But after so much rejection, I was cautious. Are you certain you want me or just any lady? I suppose I asked for that. This is new to me. How can I spend so much time with someone and not realize how important they are to me? What does it mean to say I miss you more than my wife? I need you, Steph, and not only for employment. Our first meal arrived, and the food was so delicious that we stopped chatting about ourselves for a while. We'll start conversing again as soon as he finishes his meal. I'm not sure what it is, Steph, but something shifted when I hit my head. I feel like I can see everything clearly now. I don't even dislike the elderly man anymore. You have done things for me that no PA should. You've even saved my life. I have been ignoring you, but I pledged to stop immediately. Then our main meal arrived, and once again, the food kept us silent. What he said stunned me. If he had just stated, I love you, I would have been overjoyed. But he seemed perplexed about his emotions. As I finished my meal, I waited for him to speak more. He grasped my hand first. Steph, I've begun to end my marriage to Samantha. Oh, come on, Will. You don't believe she tried to hurt you? No, I do not. What I remember makes me believe she was as surprised as I was. According to the authorities, she had the option of informing on Ryan but chose not to. That's why they're after her. She is not the brightest, but I do not believe she is a murderer. It isn't about her relationship with someone else. He said I was as much to blame as she was. We do not genuinely love each other, Steph. I assumed we did, but no. If she loved me, she wouldn't have chosen someone else. And I didn't think twice about being with other women. We had a nice time, but this is not love. Why are you telling me all of this, Will? What's this got to do with me? Are you with us? He held my hand tightly. Steph, I think I adore you. I believe I have for a while. I simply didn't see it. You know, I have always liked you. You're attractive. And having you in on a deal was always beneficial. Man, you picked up the business so quickly that you could manage it for me. You have been there for me for 5 years. Even if you disagreed with what we did, you supported me. Then you were gone. It felt like a large part of me was missing. I need you, Steph. I realize I'm not good at saying this. This is new to me. I'm unsure how to handle it. Will, I do not understand what you want from me. Do you want me to come back and work with you? I'm not sure if I can. Things are changed for me, too. I can't keep seeing you throw stuff away. But I won't give up. I will walk without the crutches. I'll go back to the top, even if it is different. With you by my side, I can accomplish anything. We can take things slowly. I'd want to try with us. And I believe you do, too. What do you say, Steph? Will you give us a chance? My heartbeat was so loud that I felt he could hear it. It's strange to get something you've sought for so long. It seems too good to be true. Tears welled up in my eyes, forcing me to dab them away with a napkin. I looked at him, and he looked really concerned. Why are you doing this to me? You know what I've been wanting for years. Why are you just now stating this, after I nearly gave up? This better not be a joke. Will, if you're fooling with me, this is it. You will not see me again. If I was joking, wouldn't I have planned it better? This is the genuine thing, Steph. This is new to me. I'm opening up about my feelings, and I know you. You recognize me. I'm very serious. I think I adore you. I want us to be together. Do you get that? It has to be just you and me, right? No more others. No more flirting around. If you really want me, you can only have me. Step out and I'll be gone, like the breeze. He leaned back and let go of my hand, a slow smile on his lips. I guess I will never try to negotiate a bargain with you again. I will not need anyone else. You will be enough. I might not always be present. Even if you are not present with me, you will be here. He tapped his skull. I couldn't help laughing. Make sure of that, otherwise there will be trouble. A nearby waiter approached us and took our dessert order. We seemed more at ease as he ordered. When the waiter went, he grinned at me. One less thing to worry about. My father already likes you. I'm not sure what your family will think of me. Let's see where this goes. First, can you believe this is really happening? It feels quite odd. I'm not prepared to rush things. I'll wait for as long as you need. Waiting 5 years allows us to wait a little longer. And I really hope you will be back at work shortly. I might come in tomorrow, I added with a smile, if you really need me. That night, we traveled back to my apartment, sitting close together and holding hands at the door. Will and I remained in the car, unsure what to do next. I turned to him and stroked his face. I won't ask you to come up yet. I suddenly feel like individuals who fantasize of winning enormous money. They plot how to spend it, but when it arrives, they are at a loss. Before I could say anything else, Will grabbed my face, pulled me close, and kissed me. His tongue touched my lips and they opened. Our tongues touched and he gripped me tightly. I placed my hand behind his head and pulled him in for another kiss. After a few more deep kisses, I paused. I need to get some sleep because I have work tomorrow. I went to open the door and saw it was already open. Thomas, the driver, was clutching it. Good to see you. I said, Thomas, did you watch? No, he stated. If it isn't about driving, I don't see it. I felt the door open. Thank you, Thomas. Good night, good night. He returned to the automobile. I unlocked my door and entered. Looking back, I noticed Will blow a kiss from the car window as they sped away. That night, I used my battery toy, thinking about Will. After the second time, I was laughing at myself. I was daydreaming about what I could easily have. As I fell asleep, I wondered how long it would take me to believe Will truly cared for me. They bid goodbye to Tangier. Ryan began to feel as if his preparations were unraveling. Samantha arrived for breakfast, but scarcely spoke when he told her about his fantasy trip to the sea. She laughed. What kind of trip is this if I can't even leave the boat? You can take off tomorrow. We will stop in Iran and walk around the city. After that, perhaps Algiers, Tunis, or even Tripoli. But they are all Arab lands. Do you know Arabic or Persian? I certainly don't. In the majority of cases, we will be able to communicate in English and French. Can't you see the positive side? Every day, we are the only ones with plenty of cash beneath the sun. Positive aspect. There is no nice side. I feel like I'm tied up on this boat. The only areas I can go where I can't speak to anyone or find aid. Stop being overly theatrical, Sam. You're not imprisoned. And absolutely, English is useful in some situations. Drop it. I'm heading downstairs to read. Contact me if you require assistance with anything. So it went. Omen was a flop. Rarely anyone spoke English. Ryan's French wasn't much assistance. Algiers and Tunis were slightly better in Algiers. Ryan even purchased paint to hide the boat's name. In Tunis, he chose a new name. Samantha insulted his decision. Billie Jean did not identify you as a Michael Jackson fan. I am not. But we have BJ on everything. Life, belts, forks, and napkins. The new name had to match the 10 days since Gibraltar, and things between Ryan and Samantha hadn't improved much in the previous attempt. Ryan steered towards Malta. The first thing we did when we arrived in Malta's Valletta was get petrol. Staying anchored all night required them to utilize the engine more, which depleted their power. Ryan paid for their stay 2 days early and went to collect Samantha. As they walked into town, he attempted to grasp her hand, but she refused. Sam definitely wanted her hair done, so after lunch, Ryan dropped her off at a salon and went for a walk around the sunny, pleasant town. He spotted numerous bars and heard a lot of English being spoken. This may be a lovely location to call home. He hoped that after selling the boat, he could return here. Sam might like it too. Beautiful weather and no need to learn a new language. This could make it an ideal location for them. On the walk back to the salon, Ryan discovered a shop that offered English newspapers. They were a touch old, but that was fine. An hour later, he was back with Sam, and he had seen something in the paper that he thought would interest her. They sat at a little pub near the water and ordered drinks. Ryan showed her the newspaper and opened it to page 4, where she saw her photo and the boats. Millionaire's wife is suspected of murder. Plot. She was astonished when she saw the headline. The tale went that she and her young buddy attempted to murder her husband, William Wainwright. Mr. Wainwright survived and was picked up by Sir George McMahon's yacht, hence the attempt failed. If arrested, they might face a 10-year prison sentence. The story focused primarily on Will's riches and how he made his money. It concluded by stating that the police were looking for them since they left Gibraltar and headed towards Madeira. No, people cannot think like that. I had never heard him, she added, crying. This is what I've been trying to communicate, Sam. The truth does not matter. It's what people think that matters. These people, he continued, patting the paper, they believe you did it, and they influence what others think. That's why we have to run. They haven't looked here yet, so we have some time. We can wait until things settle down, then plan. Ryan had a plan that Sam would not like. He had been calling around. He realized they could sell BJ and Mauritius for a lot of money. No questions were asked. But I am innocent. Sam cried and stared at the paper. To those reading this, a woman who loves another man while still married is guilty. I have been stating that I am the only one on your side. I have been trying to save you, prevent you from committing an error. Trust me, Sam. I'll make sure we're safe somehow. I will keep you out of jail. They abandoned their drinks and returned to BJ. Ryan threw his arm around her as they headed towards the boat. When Ryan returned, he chose to leave. As it became dark, he started the engine and silently left the harbor. When I arrived at work, only Jean was there. I inquired where everyone had gone. She said, all of them. Mr. McKinley left first, followed by Miss Anderton and Mr. West. Mr. Wainwright appears to be fine, although everything is quite quiet. Do you think I should look for another job? Your employment is safe, Jean. This is only temporary. Everyone will see. Mr. Wainwright can still run things from his wheelchair. Then Will stepped in as loud as ever. Let's go. Stephanie, Jean has stuff to do. I brought some coffee and sat with him in his office. He looked at me and grinned. Wow, you look terrific. How will I stay cool around you all day? You have done this before. There is no reason why this will change now. I feel alive today, truly lively. I see things in a new light. Is that why you let James, Rebecca, and Robert leave without fighting to keep them? They belong in the past, Steph. Prior people with prior skills. We need new skills. You and I. Now I'm lost. I hope you aren't saying what I believe you are. Jean was recently told she still had a job. Her employment is about as safe as it gets these days. We'll fill their offices again, but with people who have acquired new talents. It's a new beginning, Steph. Things will change. I was stunned, and it showed as he elaborated further. Previously, we would discover companies who were overflowing with goods but short on cash, and we would take those goods from them. These businesses were frequently in dire financial straits, which we exacerbated. I do not want to do that anymore. I want to help them pull back, preserve some of their belongings, but leave them standing. We need people who understand how to restore businesses, not just make a quick cash. I sat there speechless. I thought I recognized him, but this startled me. Come on, Steph, say anything, just do not declare it's over. I am confused. You changed because something compelled you to, you and the older man. You were upset about what we did. That's why you paid out those bonuses, correct? I nearly died, Steph. Without you, I would be gone. Many would be relieved if I departed today. I just left loads of money and sad people. When my father is gone, people will say he was good. Because of him, hundreds of people were able to find work and support their families. That is my goal. I want my children to believe the world is better because I am here. How about our companies? What do? Some can be saved, and we do. We'll manage the rest. As always. Like that person who makes life jackets. We would normally sell it to the highest bidder, sell the structure and machinery. Now, if we get a smart CEO in there and push it globally, we might be able to rebuild it and sell it at a higher price. We charge for the boss. We will earn less than previously, yet still live well. How do we locate these managers and salespeople? We search for them. Dad understands how to make things, knows who does what. So I will start with him. What are your thoughts, Stephanie? Are you in, or should I ditch everything? I mean, I can live comfortably on my money interest. It isn't all on me. I just work here. Your key here is highly valued. I care what you think. I believe we can do it. But I'd want to know your thoughts. William Wainwright, I have never seen you fail. This seems to be no different. I trust you if you're asking if I'm available. Then absolutely, please. If I wasn't sitting in this chair, I'd stand and kiss you. Easy. We're moving slowly, remember? Now let me update you on McMahon Construction. I looked over all of my conversations with Sir George and informed him about the business I founded. Our primary corporation had already purchased half of the shares. We thought it was time to be tough with the other owners. We planned and spoke till midday. Then there came a surprise. Just as we start talking about lunch, Jean came inside. Mr. Wainwright, Sr., wishes to see you both. I looked at Will, and he simply shrugged. Allow him in, Jean. Thanks. Tom arrived as thrilled as could be. Am I in time to take my two dearest friends out to lunch? Will gave me a glance, waiting for me to say all right. I grinned and nodded. He turned to his father. I'm not sure who your two best friends are, but since they aren't here, perhaps you can take us. I'm fine with that, Tom said, preparing to push the wheelchair. Wait a minute, Dad. If we go to lunch, I'm not going to use this chair. I will grab my crutches and you will have to wait. We had a wonderful lunch and we'll tell Tom about his plans. I expected Tom to be more excited, but he appeared concerned about Will's ability to make it work. Will, however, was confident that it would work. After lunch, we'll examine his watch. It's time for my physio. Can you two make it back to the workplace by yourselves? I watched as they left the restaurant. It appeared that he was walking better. I was still watching when Tom gently grasped my hand. Are you here for good or to tie up loose ends? Tom, I suppose I'm here for good. I hope so. Is that only for business, or has my son finally gotten it right? We could go outside. Not for me, sweetheart. I'm taking the 4 o'clock to Sheffield. He lowered his voice. Don't tell Will, but I have a date. He winked. He kissed my cheek and went. When did Will return? He looked exhausted. He sank into his chair, rolled over to the water cooler, and took a large drink. Was the physio rough? You could say that. He drained the cup. Do you mind if we stay indoors tonight, Steph? I'm exhausted. I will make it up to you. I crouched in front of him and held his hands. We do not need to go out all the time. We're taking it slowly, right? I understand, but I wanted tonight to be special. It's okay. I am not going anywhere. Inspector Davies paced back and forth through his office. How certain are you? He's heading to Valletta Robson. I can't say for certain, but it appears to be the case. He should get there soon. Okay, Robson, here's the plan. Sergeant Robson returned to his location to book their vacation. 2 hours later, they were on the plane, ready to close out another case. Are you sure she is Valletta? John doesn't want to land and discover she's not there. If the tracker's correct, she is their boss. That thing is so sharp, we know exactly where she is at the port. It appears that Mr. Betts missed the fact that Malta is a member of the EU. If he didn't already, he does now. He had to pay his port fees in euros. I'm excited about this. A little sunlight won't hurt. Just keep in mind, John, that this is not a holiday. Once the paperwork is completed, we'll travel back with our suspects. I get it, boss. But you know how slow things can be here. We'll probably stay here for a few days. 3 hours later, they arrived at Valletta. There was a light fog over the town. After collecting their belongings, they boarded a taxi to the main police station. How long has it been since they arrived, John? Approximately 5 hours, boss. They should be caught by now. I hope so, John. The employer will be furious about the travel costs. But if we bring them back, all is forgiven. If not... Hello? Traffic duty. They're here. Sir? Only a question of time. No one greeted them at the station. They waited in the lobby for 30 minutes before moving on to an office. When Inspector Malik Manduka returned, he greeted them heartily and shook hands with each. He inquired about their flight and health before his English companion returned the conversation to the task at hand. Inspector Manduka received the arrest papers. It's on its way, Inspector. I hoped it would be finished by now. I thought you'd caught them already. Do not worry, Inspector. Do you want some coffee? Right. Yes, please, replied John Robson. I am dying for one, the inspector yelled outside the door. Navarro, I need 3 coffees here. Colin Davies observed a young female cop leave her seat in the next room and proceed to a coffee pot in the corner. She returned with 3 cups on a tray containing milk and cookies. Have you received your arrest papers, Constable? Yes, sir. But there is a snag. Talk to the port employee. He claims the ship we want didn't arrive today. Colin gave his companion a stern look. She's here. Boss, I arrived just after 10. I can contact the station to inspect the computer. That will show us where she is currently. She was present when we departed. Sorry, sir, but the port guide checked all ships that arrived today. Your boat is not listed. It is not a boat. There's a catch. It's 60 feet long, for goodness sake. You can't overlook something so large. It must be in the port somewhere. We look, but I will catch him. John, please wait. How about Manduka? We are already in hot water with our own employer, despite his complaints. I'll book our flights back for tomorrow. But leave. It's time to apologize to him first. Ryan pretended he didn't realize Samantha had ceased locking the door. He saw she was behaving terrified and more willing to help when he needed it. His arm felt considerably better now, so he removed the hard cover around his hand and resumed using his wrist. Doing anything on the boat was still difficult. He had to totally remove the hard cover to move his elbow. He glanced at the map and devised a plan. He sought to find a location with a large English-speaking population and no regulations preventing him from returning to Britain. Northern Cyprus stood out to him. Next stop? Crete, he told Samantha as she prepared breakfast. We can leave the boat near the shore and go into town. We do not have to, Ryan. This isn't such a fun journey, is it? It may not be, but we should still have a fantastic time. We need fresh meals. We should have purchased some in Malta, but I believed you should run away. The newspaper upset me, that is all. Now that they have a photo of the boat, we must exercise extreme caution, especially on Crete and Rhodes. Once we arrive at Kyrene, we can dock there. Where is that? Northern Cyprus is the Turkish half. Nobody but Turkey claims it's a real place, so we are safe there. So we hide in Cairo till they can't find us. We can't live off the safe's money indefinitely. No, we won't be there for long. She got up to make breakfast while Ryan prepared to sail again. Sam sat on the deck and stared out at Crete. I wish we could simply travel to land and look around. I never realized Crete has mountains. It looks beautiful from here. We will be able to travel any place soon. I'll get us false names so we can go wherever we want. But that means I can't go home and see my friends and family, right? No, but once we've moved in, they're welcome to visit. That's still not truly free, is it? It's preferable to being in jail. It isn't ideal, but it's the best we can do. Sam considered who was to blame for their issues, but he did not say anything. She still considered turning herself in. Tomorrow we can explore roads. Perhaps this will brighten you up. I am going to start sailing. Ryan jumped up, hauled the anchor, and set the sails in less than 5 minutes. They were moving. Late in the evening, they anchored in Cathar, a bay near Fallow. Rocky. After spending the day exploring roads as much as possible, they set ship for northern Cyprus. Corinthia was once a small fishing village. Before the Turks took it, it became popular among travelers. Following the occupation, it became the primary port on the Turkish side of Cyprus. Samantha became frightened as she watched 2 Turkish boats reach the harbor. Ryan contacted the port's manager and they were able to get a berth for their boat. Ryan seems calmer than when he was having difficulties with Will. They tied up their boat at noon and enjoyed a beautiful dinner by the water for the first time in weeks. They spent their first day simply relaxing and enjoying the town's atmosphere. The next day, Ryan went to the hospital to have his cast removed. Samantha walked across town collecting postcards for her friends and family. She sat in a cafe and wrote a card to Will. Dear Will, I'm very sorry about what happened. You should know that I had no part in it. I requested Ryan to return for you, but he declined. I could not do anything. I'm glad you are still here. Please forgive me, my beloved. Samantha. She composed another one for her best friend Jane, and one more for her parents. After her coffee, she searched for a post office. After sending the card, she returned to the boat. Ryan reappeared later, his arm wrapped in a fresh sling. Why are you still using a sling? The doctor suggested I should keep it up for a while. Does it hurt? It hurts when I try to straighten it. I can't carry much for a while. What have you done today? Ryan became anxious as Samantha told him about her day. Please tell me you did not send those. We're hiding from the law. There may even be arrest notices issued for us, and you're telling others where we are. I didn't want Mom and Dad to worry. You said we were safe here and nobody would discover us. I did say that. And while we may be safe, I would prefer not to reveal our location. One thing is evident now. If we want to go south, we need to hurry before those cards reach England. Following that, crossing the border will not be easy. The next day, they boarded a jeep and drove toward Nicosia. Sam considered handing herself in to the local cops. She discussed her ideas with Ryan, who worked hard to convince her to stay. They spent the day exploring and shopping. Ryan picked up an outdated issue of The Guardian from a little cafe as Sam went to the restroom. Ryan began to read the newspaper and came across a major news story. Wainwright's still kicking rich guy William Wainwright, who recently escaped a bullet, is alleged to be behind a major corporate battle over McMullen Construction. It appears to be Wainwright's work, despite the fact that it is being done by a Grand Cayman business. Sir George McMahon, who used to own the company, was found discussing business with a woman known as Wainwright's assistants. When Sam returned, Ryan showed her the paper. Why would you want to go back? I need to see Will. I have to. She was really unhappy and began to question whether he had a decent idea. He felt compelled to say something to help her feel better. We must still be ahead, otherwise they would have apprehended us at the border. We can go north and stay there. And then what? The cash from BJ will not last till the end of the year. What work can we do? I don't think anyone needs an English actress or a deckhand caught in local seas, and I can't live that way if I can't travel where I want. It's like being in jail. I keep telling you that I have a plan. We'll get new names and go wherever we choose. Just not England, correct? Not England. Going there will definitely get you in jail. Simply trust me, Sam. Allow me a few weeks to recover my arm. Then we'll go. Everything will be set in 2 weeks. After completing their coffees, they left. They were both on edge as they approached the checkpoint. Ryan let out a tremendous breath of relief as they were permitted through, but he was a little disappointed when he heard Sam shut her cabin door on the boat. 3 weeks into our relationship, he said something that made me feel very special. We were learning to get by while working together all day. It was difficult to disguise how we felt with a tiny touch or pat. We believed we hit it nicely, but others must have predicted. Jean probably had a clue, but I never said yes to her. Perhaps the fact that we sat so close together at the desk tipped her off. Our weekends were spent together, taking turns deciding where to go. Most evenings we were out. We attended new plays, concerts, and opera, which puzzled me. When he asked whether there was anything I really wanted to see, I knew what to say. Swan Lake. Will claimed that he did not understand ballet. Dance did little for him. I believed he had forgotten it until a courier arrived with an envelope. He glanced inside, grinned, and looked at me. "Dress up tonight, Fletcher? We're out on the town. It's the Royal Opera House, no less." Okay, this one makes sense to me. Is it in English? There is no opera tonight. You mentioned Swan Lake. The Royal Ballet performs Swan Lake. I hope that's okay. I couldn't hold back. I hurried over and hugged him tightly. Are you sure you're fine with this? You don't generally enjoy this material. I have never watched it, so I cannot say. But it's Tchaikovsky, correct? The music is excellent, so I'll look into it. We took our seats right in the front and watched the evening unfold. It's difficult to put into words, but the clothes and dance took my breath away. The music was a source of joy during the vacation. I asked Will if he was interested in it. Surprisingly enough, I am. It makes me realize how strong and fit the dancers are. After the show, I'll phone Thomas to bring the car. We talked on the way home, and that made my night. Did you like it? Yes, I didn't think I would, but I actually did. The presentation and music were excellent, but seeing you happy made things even better for me. He did not say he loved me. However, his and my excitement extended beyond those words. Right then, I decided that tonight was the night. When we arrived at my apartment, I gripped his hand. Coming up. He appeared surprised. Do you want me to? I kissed him. Thomas opened the car door for us and Will. I stated this while kissing Thomas on the cheek. Thomas, you can go. Are you sure, miss? Yes, Tom. We're good for tonight. I poured wine for us and sat with him on the couch. After a while, I stood up and looked away. Looking back, I asked if he could help me with my dress. He unzipped it to my waist and then stopped. All the way, please. He must have seen I wasn't wearing a bra and unzipped it completely. He would notice my thin thong as it touched the floor. I stepped out, picked it up, and put it on the sofa, now wearing only a thong, stockings, and a belt. I faced him. Wow, would you enjoy this? I asked a man who was drooling. Yes, I do. Does this mean what I think? I turned, sat on his lap, and wrapped my arm over his neck. That depends on your thoughts. I gave him a short kiss. We had a terrific night. Let us not quit. I want to continue having fun if you do too. His hand proceeded across my tummy, up my side, and touched my left side on top. I kissed him with our mouths open. Should we transfer this into the bedroom? Oh, I truly do. Sorry, but I can't carry you. Maybe someday, but not tonight. Walking is okay with me. I was almost overjoyed when I murmured to him, Show me love, Will. I want you close. He gently touched my back when I laid weary on his chest. I began to fall asleep until he prodded me. He stated it was time for a wash. I stood up and glanced back at him. Do you want to join? Not sure I can. At home, I use a shower stool. Then it's nice to have someone to lean on. He got up on his crutches and went to the shower. We did our best to tidy up jointly before going to bed. I curled up next to him, uttering the words I had been holding back for so long. I adore you, Will Wainwright. He held me close. Stephanie Fletcher, I love you. That took me too long to realize that, but it is true. I never want to be away from you. My heart raced this morning. I remained close, staring down at him. I touched him. It felt soft but solid. I got up, crouched alongside him, and swung my leg over. Will was still unconscious when I initially sat on him. I slowly began to move, and he awoke with a broad grin. Wow, lady, you can't get enough. I have to tell that you make me very happy, but I have been wanting this for a long time. I have so much love to give back. You're aware that this is always changing, right? I don't think I can act regular at work right now. You've got to try. We can't make a big deal out of this right now. Fuss, you can't touch me. Not after all I've gone through with my wife and her man attempting to kill me. You think I'm afraid of what others will write? Allow them to talk, but it is too early. People will talk about how we were a thing before. That prompted Sam to join Ryan. Let them claim we know it's not true, so they are unable to verify it. I'm Will Wainwright, and if somebody wants to propagate lies about me, they'd best be prepared to pay dearly. We've done nothing wrong, and I will not hide. Like I'm apologizing for loving you, for our being together. Come live with me, Steph. I need you close. While you're away, you are all I think about. I am only right when you are around me. Nobody can hurt me while I have you. Come live with me. Let us do it today. I was unsure what to say. It felt too fast. But we didn't see the purpose in waiting. I could tell he was concerned as I considered it. I thought about my mother and father. Dad would not like that. Will was still with his wife. Mom would want to ensure that I was happy. No, not today at least. Before I move in, I need you to meet my family. I want them to recognize the man I'm with. And if they don't like me, that's their problem, not ours. I just want them to know you before they find out we're dating. Okay? Can we do it this weekend? I laughed. You have a dash, right? Yeah, I do. Book a hotel and let's go. If you want to irritate them, I will book it. They'll want us to stick with them. All right, get it done. And we're hitting the road this weekend. Perhaps we can also meet up with the old guy. It was somewhat expected that Dad would be apprehensive of Will. He was never interested in me. Working for him and living with him may have been too much. We tried to win him over, and I think he did a little. Mum, on the other hand, was 100% committed from the start. The weekend went well. All things considered, I avoided any embarrassing situations. Will kept his conversation with his father to himself until we were on our way home. That was when I felt the heat. He did not. Yep. What are your plans with my daughter? He asked. No way, what have you said? I answered, once my divorce is completed. I am going to ask you to marry me. It seemed to have calmed him down little. I bet he doesn't actually dislike you, just worried about his only child. Maybe he'll relax if you say yes, so am I saying yes? You are better, or I'll ask every day until you do. I gripped his arm, and we remained close while Thomas drove us back to London and Will's house in the coming week. After a week of living together, I moved all of my belongings into his flat and received a postcard. We'll joke about it. Sam's belief that a postcard will heal everything is classic. I took a look. I believe you're being harsh. She appears genuinely apologetic. I suppose she is. No hard sentiments. In a way, they pushed us together. I should turn this up to the cops, however. It hints at their location. When Inspector Davies arrived to receive the postcard, he appeared to be feeling sad. He smiled warmly at me as he passed past the office. I got up and accompanied him to Will's office. It's nice to see you again, Miss Fletcher. No hard feelings, Inspector, but seeing you always brings back unpleasant memories. I'm sorry about that, miss. I wish things were different. So, Inspector, if you're done making nice with my assistant, I'm guessing you're here for the postcard. They're in northern Cyprus, as you can see. Yes, sir, we knew that. Mr. Betts is astute. We can't get him back from the north of the island. They will not catch him for us, and this is not our place. All we can do is pray that the Turks make them depart. Inspector, I thought you'd captured them by now with the tracker on the boat. It's harder than it appears, sir. Mr. Betts stays close to the North African shore. He remains in the water that belongs to them. So we can't simply go in and grab him. We lost them in Malta. That has changed the boat's name. We got muddled up. By the time we figured it out, they had already left. But we will capture them. Do not worry. To be honest, Inspector, I want my boat back more than anything. So you aren't worried about your wife, sir. Would you be, Inspector? I assume she wrote something on that card. I don't think she was involved in the attack on me. I noticed a look of horror on her face just before everything went dark. However, she had the opportunity to tell the truth in Gibraltar, but chose not to. She went off with Ryan, knowing what they had done while I was away. Would you take her back? No, sir. I suppose not. We've been looking into bad yacht dealers. You were spot on about Marbella. We know that individual and need to communicate with them about something else. The other person is in Mauritius. If we force him to leave Cyprus, he will most likely return there. So if you had to make that trip, how would you approach it? There are just two options, and only one of them makes sense. You'd have to sail back out of the sea via the Gibraltar Strait. Go along the west coast of Africa, around the bottom point, and back up towards Mauritius. What's the problem with the other path? Let me show you the map. They stepped over to the map. Will pointed to his second option. He tapped on the map. I would never take my yacht across this area of the Indian Ocean. Why not? Will didn't respond. He simply shifted his location on the map and tapped again. I understand it now. So if he returns through Gibraltar, we can have the Navy intercept them. So I just have to wait. Is that what you are saying? Looks like it. Yes. He stood up and proceeded towards the door. Will is called out. What happens to them? The young man bets. Most people would be angry and demand retribution, but you appear to have moved on. I'm not so sure. I wasted 20 years being angry at my father. What good did that do? As George Herbert remarked, the finest investment is to live a good life. I intend to live very well, so that will be my way of giving back. I do not need to make Sam feel guilty. Ryan, meanwhile, is a completely different tale. You are a different man now. It's a good change. I like it, but it's definitely unusual. The doctor mentioned it may happen, but I didn't believe it. Samantha just saw your happy, carefree side. The genuine Will Wainwright was difficult to adore, always attempting to show off toughness. I didn't care what others thought. I adored you even then, but you didn't make things easy. You had a compassionate and gentle side, but it was very concealed. I sometimes forgot it was there. Now you can see more. Think of everything. You even listened to what your father said. It's as if the person you kept concealed has emerged. How do you know this isn't just a performance? Because the new Will is constantly present. Every hour, every day. You couldn't keep this up if it were entirely bogus. He took my hand, kissed it, and looked up at me. You know, coming close to death has an impact on you. It shifts your perspective on life. Samantha noticed a new man on her yacht. He was roughly as tall as most strong-looking people, with dark skin and a thick mustache. As she stepped out, he removed his sunglasses and grinned. He held out his hand. Mrs. Wainwright, this is David Osmond from the government. I need to speak with both you and Mr. Betts. Samantha shook his hand, full of questions. She requested that Ryan join them. Please take a seat, Mr. Osmond. They were all waiting for Ryan, but when he saw Mr. Osmond, he came to a sudden halt. Are you a cop or something? Are we in trouble? No, why would you assume this? Did you do something wrong? No, I do not think so. Then we're fine. Ryan and Mr. Osmond took their seats again. Mrs. Wainwright, Mr. Betts, I need to know what your plans are for our island. I'm not sure, Ryan said until my arm feels better. So maybe another week? Okay, maybe. It depends on my arm. Mr. Betts, you misunderstand me. It wasn't an actual question. I expect you to leave within a week. I don't understand it. We have not done anything wrong. True, Mr. Betts, but not here. You have not. However, the UK police want you both. Yes, but you don't send people back, so don't worry. What worries me is that if people believe they can hide here, we'll have every terrible guy on our doorstep. Mr. Osmond rose up and extended his hand to both Ryan and Samantha as he bid goodbye. He made it obvious. So you two will go in a week, correct? They both nodded as he departed. Sam glanced to Ryan, concerned. I assumed we'd be fine. Here we are. We have not been caught yet. In a week, I'll be prepared to go on. We'll enter Syrian waters shortly after that. It'll be easier. But where do we go, Ryan? Will we ever be okay? We're headed to Mauritius to receive new names. Then we will be safe. Perhaps we might live in Thailand or somewhere similar. But how will we pay for it all? By selling the boat. He touched the boat they were aboard. It has a high value, enough for new names and a fresh start. But you cannot sell BJ. Will adores this boat. It is valuable to him. If it's about getting out of jail or not losing the boat, I'm willing to sell it. Samantha felt stuck and couldn't see a way out. The English newspapers back home portrayed her as nasty. They said she helped a young friend murder her spouse for money. She wanted to go back and give up, but she was afraid of jail. She knew very little about it. But that tiny amount terrified her. Perhaps Ryan had a point. They could hide virtually anywhere with new names, except in the one place she wished to call home. She thought about her mother and father. They must have had a difficult time with the news crew and the cops. She also thought of Will. Could she truly let him lose his beloved BJ forever? She genuinely wanted to speak with him. He always knew just what to do. Since they married, she had relied on him for everything. Why had she decided to stay at home while he traveled on business trips? She wondered what he thought of her now. Can he still love her? Do I actually love him? She wondered. She thought she did. But why did she go see Ryan? If she truly loved him, she would not have left him. The more she thought, the more she doubted everything. Finally, she decided not to take sides. Not quite yet. She would wait till they reached Mauritius. Then she could fly home or travel to Thailand with Ryan. Perhaps she'd know what to do. It took Ryan another 5 days to feel ready to sail again. He wanted to ensure he could handle the boat without Sam's assistance. She appeared more disturbed since Osmond arrived, and he was surprised she did not leave. He was startled when she assisted him in preparing for his sailing trip. They departed Corinthia in the morning and arrived in Syrian waters in the afternoon. He led them south, towards Lebanon and Israel. 3 days later, they reached the port side. Ryan assumed traveling across the Suez Canal would be simple, just pay the fines and leave. Instead, he had to wait for a convoy of large ships. This meant waiting 12 hours. This wait made him concerned about being caught. He exhaled with relief when they told him they could leave. "What's up with the Wainwright situation?" Inspector Davies inquired. Sergeant John Robson examined his PC. "So, boss, we got the Turks to blast them out of Karenina, just like previously. He stayed near to land. They are now at Port Said. Port Said. Oh, no. What's the fuss about Port Said? It's exactly at the start of the Suez Canal, so he's traveling through to the Red Sea and then to Mauritius." Wainwright thought it was insane to try that. The sergeant looked at his screen and replied, "To me, it appears to be a smart cut through. Seems like a straightforward method. But look at the sea. He has to sail through. Oh, they would not bother with a sailboat, right? They target large ships. Wainwright thinks they would be interested. And don't forget, he spent $6 million on that nice ride. And that boat is much easier to take than a large ship. We can't do much right now. We wait till they pause long enough for us to catch them. Maybe. Or perhaps not. I'm going to talk with the chief. Super. If we had a Navy ship nearby, we might not have to wait. Why is this so important for you, boss? I mean, it's just a luxury yacht. You seem to like Wainwright. Or is it the lovely Miss Fletcher you're after? I'll let you know I'm a taken man. I'm married regardless. Miss Fletcher is nice to look at, John, but she is far out of reach. Now I just detest being taken for a fool, and young Mr. Betts has been doing exactly that. I don't want him to reach Mauritius and disappear, so that's it? Do you think he is mocking us? The punk attempted to kill someone and nearly succeeded. Since then, he's constantly one step ahead. If I'm correct, and he intends to sell the yacht by the time we figure out the legal issues, he'll be gone and the boat will look different. We cannot let that go, John. If the old man can't persuade the Navy to help, I'll have to contact Wainwright. Perhaps he can shove a few folks around." When they exited the canal, the ships didn't spread out immediately. They spread out more but continued to move together along the Red Sea's northern shore. As they traveled past Saudi Arabia, the group became smaller. Some large oil ships docked at their ports. They kept traveling past Djibouti and Yemen. Ryan and the others remained close to Yemen's coast. They were in the Gulf of Aden when Ryan began to pull away. They passed the large island of Socotra, and he guided the boat south toward Mauritius. Samantha seems more relaxed after seeing Ryan. "You seem pleased. Did anything positive happen?" "No, not really. It's just that we're nearing the end now. We only need a few more days to quit worrying." "But what if they are waiting for us in Mauritius? They've been following us very closely up until now. Maybe they guessed we were going there. No one expected us to travel through Suez. People believe it's too dangerous with all those massive ships around. But this boat is unlike the others, and we kept the engine running throughout. They'll assume we traveled to Gibraltar. So where are we currently?" Ryan went above and returned with a map which he spread on the table. "We are here," he replied, pointing. He moved his finger. "This is Mauritius, and we're doing around 15 knots, so we should be there in 4 days. "What is this place?" Sam asked, moving her finger around the map. "That is Somalia. Next to it is Kenya." "Somalia. Are you out of your mind?" "I may not know much, Ryan, but I have heard of the hazards in Somalia and its waterways. When you claimed no one would expect us to go this direction, you intended. Because it is regarded too insane." Ryan grabbed her wrist and yanked her hand off the map. Sam's face twisted with pain. "Never call me dumb. It's not dumb. I know my stuff. We're far away. Pirates don't travel this far. What if they did? Thereafter, big ships, not a modest yacht like ours. But this yacht is really expensive. You expressed it yourself. Will would probably pay a lot to get it back. Perhaps more than he would pay for me." Ryan released her wrist and walked next to her, wrapping his arm over her. "Calm down. I will not allow anything hurt you. We're too far away for danger. Sam, trust me, we're safe. In a few days, we'll start over." Sam felt slightly better in his embrace, even if she was crying. She gazed at him. "Ryan, I have made up my mind. I am not going with you. Do not be silly. Of course you are coming. What else could you do? Where would you go? Back home. I will inform them that you left me in Mauritius. I'm not going to assist them catch you. But why? They'll lock you up as soon as you arrive. I do not care. I am not like you. I love my family. I feel terrible about what this is doing to them. I can't stand the notion of not seeing them again. Are you going back to him, guys? Why are you making this into a fight? Do you believe he wants me back after what we did? I'd like to inform him, but don't expect much. No, this is my family, my pals, England. I cannot live without them. I had chosen jail and England over being free here, always afraid of being caught. What about us? Ryan, there was never a us. We have a bit more time. Let's make good use of it. Ryan, looking sad. He put the map away and climbed up to store it. When he returned, he gave Samantha a beseeching glance. Does this mean I can return to your room? Samantha grinned and kissed him. Sure. Why not? Two guys entered the room. They were short and thin with black skin. Each one has a large cannon. They turned and pointed their rifles at Ryan and Samantha, ranting in a language they could not understand. Samantha sat on the bed, the covers pulled up to her neck, screaming as the men yelled and waved their guns. Ryan was still trying to put on his jeans when another man with a little revolver entered. He swung his rifle around. "Where is your crew?" he asked in English. "What crew?" Ryan responded, "It's just us." "Do you know about this? Have a lot of needs?" 4 or 5 persons. "Where are they?" "It really is just us. The boat operates on its own. She sails herself. You two join me." Samantha said, "I need to get dressed." "Then dress." He turned and shouted something to the other 2 men who had exited the room. He pointed his revolver at Samantha. "Get dressed now." Noise and banging could be heard above deck. Ryan looked up. "What's going on up there? This is none of your concern." "Just hurry up," Sam said, hoping the man would glance aside and trying to stay hidden while she dressed. After she was dressed, the man with the gun waved it, instructing them to exit the room. Ryan went first, with the man close behind Samantha. When they arrived in the cockpit, Ryan took a flare gun from its holder and turned to confront the man with it. Ryan fell to the floor after hearing 3 gunfire. Samantha attempted to approach him, but the man yanked her back and dragged her into the cockpit. She noticed 4 men running over the deck. They were cutting the ropes, causing sails to decrease. The man holding the rifle barked orders. 2 men dashed over the deck, hopped down, and quickly climbed back up, holding Ryan. Sam assumed they'd put him in the tiny boat tied next to theirs, but they grabbed him by the arms and legs and flung him overboard. "No!" Samantha yelled. She attempted to run to Ryan, but the man grabbed the top of her pants and drew her back. He said, "Get in the boat!" Samantha attempted to break free. "You killed him. You are a bad man. Get inside the boat or you'll be next." He placed the gun into her back and she climbed into the boat. She returned her gaze to BJ, who was dejected. Its sails were declining or simply flat. She sobbed for Ryan, for Will, who would be unhappy about his boat, and for herself, who had no idea what was coming next. The man with the gun boarded the boat and forced Samantha to sit at the front. He shouted orders at the men on BJ. They all ran across the deck and leaped into the boat. One person untied the boat, while another started the motor and navigated. They got closer to BJ's front and secured a rope to it. They drew away with the rope connected to the back of their boat. Samantha felt just terrible despair. She was so close to returning home, but now she wasn't sure she'd ever see it again. Demi's True Bridge was a large Royal Navy ship deployed to the Indian Ocean to protect British ships from sea thieves. There weren't many cargo ships flying the British flag at the time, so Truebridge spent a lot of time traveling between Cape Town and the Persian Gulf. Captain Robert Jeffreys was proud to guard British ships in peaceful times, but the new orders in his hands did not make him happy. He moved to the radar and pointed to a dot. "What is that?" he asked. "Not sure, sir. Too small for a cargo ship. It could be a patrol boat, but it appears to be quite large for what we often see here." "Could that be a large 60-foot sailing ship?" "Yes, sir. This may be it. How quickly does she go?" "She was traveling at 16 knots, but has now come to a standstill." Captain Jeffreys wrote down the location of the target and walked to his first mate. He gave him the position. "Head for this location and summon Lieutenant Roberts to the bridge." Lieutenant Roberts arrived dressed in flight gear. "Did you want me, sir?" "Yes, Mr. Roberts. It looks like we're playing cops for the Queen. We need to track down some wealthy individuals. Fancy boat is back. What about defending the trading ships?" Exactly, Mr. Roberts. It appears that the government believes it is more important for us to apprehend a few thieves than to protect our ships. I'm not thrilled either, but orders are orders. He returned to the radar and pointed at the boat's location. Fly out here and see whether there's a white 60-foot boat. Make sure they can see you. Allow them time to consider so they do not fight when we come. Will there be gunfire, sir? I hope not, but if anything happens, get out quickly, got it? Sir, it's as clear as day. Good. Get the links up. We'll keep you posted on any developments. Lieutenant Roberts wasn't in the air long when the radar operator alerted Captain Jeffries. She is moving. Funny, sir. She seemed to be on her way to Mogadishu. Great. Exactly what we need on the boat. Nerves were high as I tried to drag BJ in a direction where she would fight back. The only English-speaking pirate grabbed Samantha's arm and yanked her up. "Who is on that boat?" he demanded. "No one. You killed Ryan. It's only us. So who's getting it moving?" I pull and it pulls back. Someone is steering. It must be the autopilot. Didn't you turn it off? What do you mean by autopilot? It's powered by a computer. That is why we don't need people. It is attempting to travel to Mauritius unless you shut it down. We go back. You turned it off. I cannot. I'm not sure how the man hit her across the face. Stop fooling around. You are turning it off. I truly cannot. She sobbed. Ryan handled it, but he's gone. Perhaps you could cut something. He pushed her down and she fell crying. The boat slowed down, but the pirates got riled up. They spotted a swift flying machine approaching them. When the rope linked to BJ was cut, one pirate immediately began cutting it. Their boat speeded away, leaving BJ behind. The Lynx helicopter sped past. The pirate boat completed a large loop around BJ-2 before flying away from the pirates. Flight Lieutenant Roberts then contacted his base. "We see a boat. There are around 6 Somalis on it. It appears that they attempted to bring the large boat to shore, but have since let it go. Sir, I can chase them. Lieutenant, you know how we do things. Did they shoot at you?" "Not yet, sir. No. If they do, act." Lieutenant Roberts piloted the Link. So, at face the boat, a pirate pointed his gun toward the chopper. The boss struck him with his revolver. He tugged Samantha upward. Then, glancing at the chopper, he placed his rifle at her head. "Oh no, we have a problem here, sir. They have a woman, possibly from Britain." A gun pointed at her head. "Okay, Lieutenant, back off. Just keep an eye on them. We're rushing to get there, sir. They will reach their destination before you can catch up. We will do our best to get them." Samantha felt depressed as the helicopter turned away. Her captor smiled and his team cheered. They sped towards the coast. Sadly, Roberts was correct. True. When the boat hit Somali waters, the bridge was still a long way away. Captain Jeffries had to surrender and return to BG-2. I was still lost in the sense of being close. The feeling you get when someone special touches you. Rub, kiss, and hold. And sure, even more. It's just love making friends, you can say. However, they are unfamiliar with true love. I'd been with men before and enjoyed it, but this was different. I want you now. He kissed me. I felt his hand and then the phone rang. I held my breath while he paused. The ringing continued, followed by a fast move. That was something. "You never did this for Helga. What happened?" "Let the phone ring. I've never done it for anyone, not even Sam." "How did you learn about Helga? I was the one that called you." He chuckled. "You are quite the trickster." The mobile phone beside his bed began to shake. I picked it up and answered William Wainwright's phone. It was Inspector Davies. "Yes, Inspector, he's right here. 1 second. I walked away from him and handed him the phone. "We will turn on the loudspeaker so that I can hear." "We found your boat. It is currently en route to Cape Town." "That's excellent, Inspector, but it could have waited until morning." "There's more, sir. It might be in the news tomorrow. It's better that you hear it from me." "Is this about my wife?" "Yes, sir. Somali pirates captured her. They typically demand money, so she should be fine." "Thank you, Inspector. How about Ryan Betts? Is he with them?" "No, sir. We do not think so." "What do you mean, Inspector?" "You received the badge back. So either you have him or they do." "No, sir. We found another option. Shots were fired on the boat and there was blood on the deck. It appears they shot him and threw him over." "Oh, that is horrible news." "You surprised me, sir. If he tried to kill me, I'd be relieved he'd left. I'm not worried about him, Inspector. It's his father. I know him. He is a great guy. Yes, sir. I understand that it is difficult. Thank you for the information, Inspector. If that is it, I will say good night." "Yes, sir. Good night." We will hang up the phone and put it away. It was unexpected. He claimed he had always known how to play it. Cool. What happens next? There's nothing to do now but wait and see what they want. So we wait. Will you help her? What are your thoughts? I'm confident you'll find a method to assist her, but make it appear that you accomplished nothing. You know me too well. Why do you want everyone to believe you're tough and uncaring? Because if people are unaware of what might harm you, it appears that such things cannot harm you. Am I something that can harm you? You, my darling, are both my deepest weakness and my biggest strength. Now you're speaking in puzzles. You're intelligent. You will receive it. I've been pondering about something. What is that? When will you be ready to leave again? Will laughed. Woman, you can't get enough. Only when it applies to you. The story quickly spread across the mainstream media. By the middle of the day, they had been contacting Will constantly. Jane was able to send 2 reporters away, annoyed. But that didn't stop them from waiting outside as we went for home. Will you, Mr. Wainwright, pay the ransom? One yelled at Mr. Wainwright. How about your divorce? Yelled another. We will simply stroll by them and open the car door for me. I got inside. Then followed a question that caused him to pause. Have anything to say to Ryan Betts? His family, sir. So stop, turn around, and face the reporter. I talked with George Betts today. What I stated is none of your concern. He got into the car, and we drove home. After a few days, there were fewer journalists. They all raced off to cover a story about an actor's nanny and her new kid, Scandal. It took over a week before anything else occurred. Joe McKee strolled into our office on Wednesday morning. He was a tall man, slightly overweight, with a round face and short hair. Jane entered looking ashamed. Mr. Wainwright, there is a Mr. Joe Schmo Couture here to meet you. He claims it's about your wife. Let him in, Jane. She went to the door and let the man in. He entered the office, smiling and extending out his hand. We'll stay sitting, not bothering to shake hands. Morning, Mr. Wainwright. Nice to meet you. I wish I could say the same, Mr. Carter. So what do you want? Now, Mr. Wainwright, we are both in business. There's no need to be chilly. Well, Mr. Carter, I know my game. What are yours? Will did not ask him to sit, but he did anyway. So relaxed. He leaned back. I'm fixing things today. I'd like to fix things so you can see your wife again. And how about that? He rubbed his hands together and smiled. I know the people who don't know her face to face, but I also know a guy who knows another guy. I know what they want, and they directed me to you. Carter, skip to the end. How much? Oh, Mr. Wainwright, I do not want anything. I'm only here to help you deal with the bad folks. Who took your wife? I am your pal. Mr. Carter, you're not one of my buddies. Now the price. Don't become furious, Mr. Wainwright. Simply send $10 million to an account. I will inform you. Your wife will be returning in a few days. 100,000. You do not get it, Mr. Wainwright. These are cruel guys. You do not meddle with them. Who is fooling around? If Samantha arrives safely to the British High Commission in Nairobi, I will pay your pals 100,000 pounds for their efforts. Carter laughed. Mr. Wainwright, my man, you simply do not grasp it. You don't have control here. These guys are awful news, and they make the decisions. They will tell you how and when your wife will be released free. We'll take the photograph. I did close and tapped his computer keys. He waited, clicked a couple times, then looked at Carter. I'd seen him negotiate agreements before, but I expected him to be more upset. Nonetheless, he appeared cool. He smiled at Carter. Mr. Carter, this photo confirms my wife was alive 2 days ago. It does not show. She's okay now. You claim that your friends have all the wins. You don't seem to know. In cards, they just got a low hand. See, I am severing ties with my wife. She is with her man. Who? Your friends are gone on my yacht. Aim to end me. I would have more money if she didn't return. So why should I give you $10 million for Carter? Will continued speaking with a smile on his face. Now, Mr. Carter, this is what will happen when you depart. Take this satellite phone to your friends in 10 days. Come back. I'm going to chat to my wife on this phone. Then we discuss. Deal, but no. Is there any cash? I dropped to get my wife back. Cuts from my offer. Carter appeared disoriented for a moment before regaining his composure. I realize I'm just wasting time here. He gave Will a card saying, call me when you're ready to talk. But no, these are harsh, guys. You are responsible for whatever happens to your wife. Mr. Carter, make no mistake. If she is injured, you will be held liable. It's no sense attempting our family now. They have no money and no house. It's time to go. Jane will hand you the telephone." Carter stood up and went to shake hands, only to discover that Will refused. He then pretended he was repairing his pants. I followed him out and made sure he took the satellite phone. Back in the office, Will leaned back with his hands behind his head. "The game is on." "It's not a game, Will. This is about Sam's life. You could have compensated them. You have the cash. We'll learn more from the McMahon situation, but they'd return back the next week seeking more. I will get her back, but they will not receive $1. I do not see how. You do not know where she is. We press them as we would in business." I wanted to say more, but he was already on the phone. "Hatcher, what up? Good. Listen, I've got a name. Carter, not from Somalia. Likely. Kenya may travel to Nairobi shortly. In 10 days. Hatcher, this has to go. As we spoke, remember that I know your secrets. If the government learns, you can assist the poor in Sierra Leone. Kiss your honors farewell. Okay, but keep her safe. I will wait for your call." He hung up, grinning. That will shake things up. I stood up and sat down at his desk, trying to find the words. I supported him, but I wasn't sure his approach was ideal. "Will, is this actually the way? Was it Carl Hatcher? Would you like to deal with him? We need to shake things up." And he is the man. He messes with entire countries, but only so he could sell more firearms. I know you will. If something bad happens to Samantha, you'll blame yourself. He grabbed for my hand. "Trust me. Love. I will not go save her. I just want to teach her kidnappers a few things. I'll do my best to get her back." Amin Ahmed hung up. He did not like white women. He believed they lacked morality, and now he was certain. How could their warriors withstand them? He was furious that this woman's actions had reduced her ransom payment. He walked around angry, kicking objects. He intended to calm down before seeing her, but he was still angry when he opened the door. Samantha looked up when the door swung open. She was pleased to see Amin, the only captor who knew English, but that feeling vanished when she saw his face. He stormed over and struck her hard. "Slut! You Western women make me ill. You do not respect yourself or your husbands." Samantha and I touched cheeks. She could feel blood trickling down her arm. "I don't understand it. What have I done? I did everything you asked. I've told you everything. What have I done? You cheated on your husband. That is how he is abandoning you. Do you think he will pay now? I should sell you. Al-Shabaab is willing to pay a high price for a beautiful Western harlot." "No, please," she cried. Will pay. I know he will. He will not leave me here. Please wait. Speak to him again. Allow him more time, please. My friend believes it would be easier if we just murdered you. Will would not want that. But it is true, right? Your husband will pay a high price for letting you go in your Western divorce. If we kill you, it costs him nothing. Yes, it's true. But Will isn't like that. He is a businessman. They are all the same. He'll save me. I just know it. You'd best hope so. If not, things look bleak for you." Sam was heartbroken as he went away. She had tried to appear strong, but she recognized the truth in his remarks. She wished she could speak to Will. Say apologize. Tell him she attempted to get Ryan to turn around. I believed in Will. I knew he would not abandon Sam, but his refusal to pay a ransom worried me. When his father, Tom, came to meet us, I told him about it. He's dead intent on not paying Tom. He says he has a plan but won't reveal it. We know he can pay without feeling like it's gone, but that's like paying the Danegeld. Sorry, but I don't grasp it. It's by Rudyard Kipling. Paying the Danegeld means that once you pay, you will always pay. The same goes for blackmail and kidnapping. I can see how it works with blackmail but not kidnapping. Look, if people here pay the ransom, you and any children you may have will not be safe. You would always require guards. Wait, Tom, you're moving too quickly. Who mentioned anything about kids? We're not even married. If he lets you leave, he is a fool. And he is no idiot. If he claimed he'd save her, he would. Simply trust him. I do, Tom. I truly do. I really wish he'd told me about it. Why keep me in the dark? Perhaps it's because his plan deviates from the norm. You cannot be held responsible if you are unaware. Will's voice caused me to jump. I turned to see him beside the door. He'd swapped his crutches for 2 sticks. How long have you been there? Long enough to hear Dad speak about Kipling. Given the current situation, they are both correct, and we ruin everything up, not only for us, but for everyone these guys come into contact with. For them, money is everything in their game. If something costs more than it can bring in, you get rid of it. But they might kill her. They might, but they will not. That is negative for making money. It's pointless to guess right now. We'll know more when Carter returns. Are you sure he is coming? He's coming back. He's received his ticket. 2 days later, Mr. Carter entered our home. It had been 10 days. He's been right on the money since he departed. His brazen demeanor was gone. He appeared nervous now. Jane allowed him in, and Will offered him a seat. He began talking right away as he sat. Good news, pal. I spoke with the people holding your wife, and they are willing to ask for less. Just $2 million for her safe return. Hold on. Carter, what did you do? I asked over the phone. Carter nodded. Great. So I should be able to call them from my computer. Carter shuffled uncomfortably when the computer made a call. It seemed like ages before someone picked up. Yes, responded the voice on the other end. You have my wife. I want to see her. You speak with our go-between. I'm not going to talk about deals until I know my wife is okay. She's fine. You'll see her in a bit. So our agreement benefits you. I replied, I wanted to see my wife. Show her now or I'll hang up. We heard some screams of pain and commotion before Samantha was pushed into a seat in front of the satellite phone. It took her a moment to notice Will's face staring back. Oh, Will, I'm very sorry. I had no idea Ryan would do that. It astonished me just as much as you. I urged him to turn the boat back, but he refused. I understand I made a mistake. Really messed up. Do you ever stop, Sam? Just listen. How are you? Are they being nice to you? If you think being locked in a room with only a chair, a little window, and a pot to urinate in is nice, they are. What is that loud sound I hear? Sounds like large booms. Is there anything happening over there? I do not know. There were big bangs last night, and everyone has been panicking out since then. Okay, Sam, hold on. I'll do whatever I can to get you out. Cannot you just pay them? It's not that simple. The chair was suddenly dragged away, as was Sam. A man stood in front of the camera. Actually, it's that easy. You have seen your wife. Now it's simply a matter of how we do the exchange, he shouted. $10,000? I should not give you it. However, you got rid of the individual who attempted to take me out, saving the cost of a trial. I guess you should receive something for $10,000. He took a step back from the camera before turning and pointing directly at Will's image. Do you think I will hand her over for $10,000? No, I believe you will say no now, but later. Let her go for nothing. You are insane. Do you realize that? You're nuts. He reached out and the screen went blank. Carter got up and walked up to Will. He's correct. You're nuts. You're supposed to know this dance, I asked. You go low and I drop a bit. You go up, we meet in the middle. But you went lower. He's correct. You're nuts. Will grabbed a remote and pointed it at a television on the wall. Things change. Carter, I think you should watch this. The screen displayed a dense mass of dark smoke with fires beneath, and you could just see the outline of a ship. Here are live photos from our chopper near Mogadishu's coast. You're looking at the Spirit of Olympus, a giant oil ship weighing 250,000 tons. Somali pirates kidnapped her last year and demanded $200 million to release her. Now she's tipping over and spewing oil, catching fire on the sea's surface. We can't stay close because of the severe heat, making it impossible to rescue the ship with oil spilling. Water will rush in and she will sink. This is Andrew Pierce on a KTV chopper near Mogadishu. I will get back to you in the studio. Back at the studio, a shipping professional expressed his thoughts, implying that it wasn't by chance. A Mombasa reporter related stories from Mogadishu residents about many bombs in the studio. They assumed it was intentional and pondered who would do such a thing. The only response the security guard had was a battle between pirate groups. What do you think about that? I will ask Ketter. I can't believe this. Who would do that? You overheard them. It appears that pirate gangs are fighting. No, I cannot see that. They do not fight among themselves. Come on, Carter. We're both aware that catching ships is becoming more difficult as there are fewer of them. The fight will begin anyway. You have more troubles than my wife right now. Why not let her go? I keep telling you, Mr. Wainwright, that I don't know these people. I'm merely a middleman. That's odd, considering both your wife in Mombasa and your other woman in Mogadishu have indicated you're thick as a thief with them getting paid. Kata stood up quickly. You spoke to my wife. That is too much. I hope they take your wife. Oh, I do not think you mean that. Remember what we discussed last time you were here? Whatever they do to my wife, I'll make certain you get the same. We will press a button on his speaking box. Jane, could you please ask Mr. Maidment to enter? The door opened, and in walked a massive man. He was extremely tall, with broad shoulders and large muscles. He stood close to Kata. Mr. Maidment, Carter is leaving immediately. Can you show him out? Sure thing. Boss, have you talked to your lady? Yeah. She's trapped in a tiny room with only a chair and a bucket. She has a black eye and a cut here. He pointed to a location on his cheek, slightly below his eye. Okay, boss, I got it from here. He took Kata's left arm and brought him outside. That was all I saw of him for the next week. There were fresh reports of attacks along the Somali coastline. The news was all over it. 2 days after the tanker tail broke, the news revealed a cargo ship in distress. It had been hit with mortar bombs. A large portion of its load had been dumped into the sea, causing the ship to tilt significantly. The newscaster reported that the tilt seemed to be worsening. Experts believe it could lose additional cargo if it does not turn. They could fix it by removing the load, but Somalis lacked the necessary equipment. The aircraft moved, and the camera captured a raft in the water. We believe the bombs originated from the raft, which appeared to have been towed here by a powerful boat. People heard it drive away immediately after the incident. They soared above an oil tanker, still on fire, back at the newsroom. People discussed how the back-and-forth attacks resembled a gang war. To be honest, the Money News guy tried to figure out who won and who lost. John, it's difficult to find any winners here. The insurance people will suffer. They hoped to repair these ships to compensate for the money they had previously paid to the owners. A group of Somali pirate organizations were struggling, with 2 of them already being heavily targeted. A smaller but well-armed team was the only squad that could emerge from this catastrophe with any success. One story that no one discussed anymore. Was Samantha's kidnapping for Will? Life kept going. We worked. And after work, we had some fun together. Will pretended to have complete control of the situation, but I could see fear in his eyes when he checked the news. Will received a call on his computer about a week after someone named Couture paid him a visit. What can I do for you, Mr. Ahmed? There was a moment of stillness before Amin Ahmed responded. Who told you that name? It does not matter, Mr. Ahmed. What really matters is that I know it. So, what do you want? Mr. Couture, our intermediary, has yet to respond with your decision. That's bad, seeing as he has my cash. I thought you said he was reliable. No. You wouldn't have paid him $2 million unless you knew your wife would be set free. Who's talking about $2 million? I said $10,000, and that is what I handed over. Now, when will you let my wife go? After a lengthy wait. Ahmed spoke again. You are making a mockery of me, Mr. Wainwright. I'm not someone you can mess with. Listen, Ahmed, I don't mess around, and I know you're dealing with your own battles. What about letting her go so you may concentrate on dealing with your pirate rivals? No, this is not true. We do not fight. We are brothers. What about Couture? Was he a brother too? Sure, but now he's taken my money, and you have zip. It appears to me, Ahmed, that all of this trouble began when you refused to release my wife. Perhaps God is sending you a message. The call then terminated, and I will pick up the phone. He was surprisingly cool when he spoke with Carl Hatcher. He hung up the phone, flashed me a grin, and asked, Won't be long, will you? Got a spill? What is up with Keeter? I understand you did not hand up cash. All right, there's no sweat. True, no money came his way, but it's wise to let Ahmed think so. It is all about shaking him up, make him afraid. Then we throw him a lifeline. Bruce Goddard was all grins about the British cops. They flew him out of Gran Canaria and put him up at the Savoy Hotel, merely to get his word on saving Will Wainwright. His previous London excursions were nothing like this. Living large, he thought, even allowing the bartender to charge his beer to his accommodation. That seemed a little brazen until he heard the price. Then it was all good. He was midship when they informed him that his dinner companion had arrived. Sir, your dinner guest is here. You have the incorrect guy. I was about to grab a curry and some beer. Sir, there is no mix-up. You're Mr. Bruce Goddard from room 235. Yes, but your guest is waiting in the dining area. Bruce thanked them and went inside the restaurant. The head waiter oozed quality. Even though everyone else was dressed up, No one made a fuss about Bruce's jeans. He summoned a server who directed Bruce to a place. As Bruce approached, he noticed a man already standing there. "Sorry, mate," Bruce started. "There appears to have been a mix-up. Sorry I didn't invite anyone over for dinner, and this location is completely out of my league." Bruce said a man extended his hand. "Good evening, Mr. Goddard. This is Will Wainwright. Sorry about the surprise, but I sort of invited myself." Bruce took a step back and shook his hand. "I have to say, you look much better than the last time I saw you. But listen, we cannot eat here. It's too expensive, and I'm not dressed accordingly. I can wait if you want to make a change. Don't worry about clothing standards or the bill. It's on me," Will said, nodding toward Bruce. Bruce grinned. "So this was your flight? What about the hotel? It was not the cops." "Yes, it was. You've got me. Admittedly, Bruce is fine. Please call me Bruce." "All right, Bruce. Shall we sit or go somewhere else?" They decided to sit while eating. Will had learned a lot about Bruce's past by the time they got to the brandy. He understood he needed to make an offer. "Bruce, I owe you a lot, and I can't pay it back. But tell me, are you exclusively like vehicles, or can you sail? The joke is on you. I am from New Zealand. Sailing is in my blood. Therefore, I'll hand you an envelope from his coat. Hold on. I do not want your money. I did what I did because it was correct, and that girl of yours forced me into it." He chuckled, recalling Stephanie in her bikini, encouraging him. Will gave him a ticket instead of money. "Slide it across the table. This is for a flight to Cape Town. My yacht, BG2, is there. I'd like you to check it out and then return it. I'll then set an envelope and card in front of Bruce. You've received a £1,000 fine. 3 additional guys to help you out. BJ can go alone, but I want to verify it first. You might need to clear their tabs before leaving. They received their money in Ramsgate. You both." Bruce grinned. "This guy has sailors. Here's a card stuffed with food, fuel, and additional supplies just in case. Then we'll divide over a sheet of paper marked with a number. That is how much I will pay you for this job." Bruce let out a low whistle. He stared at Will. "You are making it difficult to say no, so don't. We'll take out another sheet of paper. Here's a job for when you return. Keep BJ ready to sail. Recruit a squad. Sail her wherever needed. You are the skipper when I am not there. Think about it. Tell me after the trip. Deal, I suppose?" "Yeah. Still shocked? Great. You leave in a week. Hotels? Yours until then. Whatever you want. Put it in the room. If you wish to watch a show, ask the concierge." Will stood up, hand out. "Here's to a solid start," he added, grasping his stick. He moved away, then stopped to look back at Bruce. "I'm not sure what happened between you and Stephanie, and I don't care. However, she is no longer an option, got it?" "Yeah, it's all good," Bruce answered. "I got the hint she'd taken." Will smiled and nodded. Bruce could read the smile. "So you two have something special. That's fantastic." Will stated, "I know she is an amazing person. It took me a little too long, but I see it now." Then the men parted ways. For a week following Amin's call, Somalia was in the headlines. Both large ships were gone. There were more attacks on the coast, and numerous pirate ships were destroyed. I wasn't sure how Will was involved, but he looked pleased with how things came out. On the 7th day, we received a call from Carl Hatcher, which helped him relax. It was a brief call. Hanging up the phone will make me grin. It appears that it will cease in 2 or 3 days. Could you tell me now? You probably already know. Do you know what Hatcher is into? He deals with death, correct? Yes, he is an arms dealer, but he also seeks to destabilize countries by deploying mercenary soldiers. That leads everyone on both sides to believe they need weapons. He sells to both. His men have forced the pirate factions to combat over the last few weeks. Now the pirates believe they require greater guns and equipment. I guess we will sell it to them. What's your role in this? I invested money in the mercenaries, but only if they helped release Samantha. It will not make him rich. However, Hatcher's actions will attract a lot of attention, but he doesn't care about fame. He does if it results in a search before his name. He dreams of becoming Sir Carl Hatcher, and liberating Sam will make headlines. I love him. That pretty basically guarantees his knighthood. So how much did it cost you? About $1 million, perhaps less. I moved over, sat in his lap, and kissed him. How about we go home earlier? We can't do it. We have people to meet later. I stood up, gently caressed his face, and kissed him again that night in bed as we snuggled. I played with his chest hair. I kissed his cheeks. Then I placed my head on his chest. If I were taken away, would you do the same for me? For you, my darling, I would deploy an army of tanks to that location, leading them myself. I'd fight to the end. Please do not quit. Keep going. I really love you. I want you close. Make good love with me. I am not going anywhere, ever. I believe Sam's decision was incorrect. But you think we should aid her, correct? Yes, you too share this viewpoint. Nobody should have to endure as much as she does. Do not worry. I believe in Hatcher. I don't like or trust him, but I know he can accomplish what he sets out to, so we simply wait. Probably a few days. He was correct. 2 days later, Carl Hatcher's face was the focus of the morning news on television. There's big news in the Samantha James kidnapping case. Miss James, an actor and the wife of the wealthy Will Wainwright, appeared at the British High Commission in Nairobi. She was with businessman Carl Hatcher, who appears to have gotten her out. Then they showed a brief press conference outside the High Commission. How did you get into this? Mr. Wainwright, my friend, knew I could communicate in Somalia and asked me to help, which I gladly accepted. Mr. Hatcher, what was the ransom? I can plainly state that no ransom was paid. Mr. Wainwright and I agreed on this. Miss James was let go as a kind gesture. Sir, do you know who took Miss James? Not by name, but I had friends in Somalia and was fortunate to push them. I believe that's it, everyone. It's been a hard day and I need to unwind. Thank you for listening. Will gave a huge grin as he watched. He's gotten away with a lot, hasn't he? He said. I nodded. Even though Carl Hatcher's work is dark, he seems like a nice guy right now. Inspector Davies called us soon after the news was over. He stated Sam will stay at the High Commission for a while to recover before returning home. We'll get her off the plane and take care of her, he added. I will let you know. When we left for work, we had to push past reporters outside Will's flat. They fired questions at us, just like they did to Hatcher. I tightened up when he asked his query. Mr. Wainwright, did you actually want your wife back? Won't it be easier if they kept her? Will stepped slowly towards the reporter. Is this something you've learned to ask? Is this just how you are? Some reporters laughed, but this one stuck with our readers. Want to know? Your readers should know how much you get paid to ask idiotic questions, but you won't tell them. What happens between my wife and me is not their concern. This is all I will say. No money was supplied, and if everyone thought like me, there would be no pirates. He turned and returned to the car. Thomas shielded Will from the media. Strangely, no one questioned Thomas. They simply stepped aside as he walked to the car and took us away. For 3 days, we had to go past a group of writers who were asking us questions as we walked to work. Every day, they asked a new question. When would Sam be back? Where would she live? We followed his pledge and did not respond to any of them. On the 4th day, Sam returned to Heathrow Airport. Inspector Davies and Sergeant Robson were waiting to pick her up and take her in. She was not surprised to see the cops. She knew it was coming, but she wasn't expecting to see the man in a dark suit who claimed to be her lawyer. She was transported straight to New Scotland Yard, accompanied by her lawyer. She just had to spend 1 night in jail. Her lawyer negotiated a reduced charge, so by noon the next day, she was on her way to her parents' home. Soon after, her agent contacted with a slew of opportunities for her to tell her tale, participate on talk programs and other public engagements. She listened to her lawyer and carefully considered each offer. When one demanding paper offered her £250,000 to reveal it all right away, she declined. She refused to talk to anyone until she spoke with Will. She drew a deep breath and called him. She was surprised by how pleasant Will seemed on the phone. He even offered they meet for lunch, and she enthusiastically agreed. She knew about the divorce and assumed he'd be furious, but he remained calm and seemed to care. She determined to look her best, so she spent her morning before lunch getting dolled up at the beauty shop. She was shocked to see Will struggling with his staff. "Oh, God, what happened to you? Someone struck me with an oar. I assumed you knew. I knew about it, but your leg. It isn't my leg. The blow to my head makes it difficult to control. But things will get better, right?" "Yeah, it will. However, things are difficult for the time being." "Oh, Will, I'm very sorry. I had no idea Ryan would do that." "I know, Sam. If I hadn't, you wouldn't be free today. But you caused this mess. I cannot believe you did this, Sam. My own crew. Really? What went through your mind? That's it. I didn't expect you to be gone, and it happened unexpectedly. You're not claiming this is my fault, right? Nope, nothing like that. I'm trying to explain what happened, but I can't find the words. It's just happened. I had no idea Ryan would go that far. I attempted to stop him, but he refused to listen. I understand you may detest me now, but can we go back? Let us see. Sam, have you taken a trip with your man yet? You let your lover tag along. Did you think Ryan would just sit back knowing his girl was with someone else? I was never his girlfriend. Just a side note while you were out. I realize the absurdity now, but I never thought he'd try to kill you. And then he attempted to think I was gone. What have you done? A loving woman would want justice, but you attempted to cover it up. He terrified me. I was warned that people would suspect I was involved. Or worst, I set it up. I couldn't deal with it. I should have, but couldn't. I guess I understand, so let's switch gears. Have you talked to the lawyer? Yes. Thank you for that. I do not deserve your help. So I paid for your lawyer so that I could afford it. You did far more than pay. Mr. Hatcher explained what you did. He said if you had done it their way, I could have been stuck for months. Okay, here's the deal. I want to get our divorce done quickly and cleanly. I'll give you a house and help you start afresh. You won't need money because you will be renowned. I'll find someone to help you. Your agent simply wants to make a lot of money. However, this person will look after your image. That way, you could still be able to work after things settle down. I will pay your legal bills and do my utmost to keep you out of jail. In exchange, you do not contest the divorce or the terms. Most crucial, behave as if Hatcher never told you anything. He got you free and that was all there was to it. But why do people assume you accomplished nothing? They think you're cold-hearted. I could straighten things up if I told them the truth. There are two causes. You only demonstrate weakness if others know about it. And what Hatcher said couldn't have happened. That would be interfering in the affairs of another country, and that is against the law. So do we agree? Is there no way to solve this? No, there is not. Then I suppose we do. I owe you so much. Samantha prepared to leave as their lunch came to an end. She kissed Will on both cheeks as she was about to go out. He stopped her. Sam, write everything down while it is fresh in your thoughts. There's a narrative waiting for someone who knows how to tell it. My buddy will assist you. She smiled, said thank you, and departed. 1 year later. I watched him walk across the room with a little limp, his only hitch resting on his cane. It's more about style now. I looked on, filled with pride. He got up and stood in front of everyone at Narvik Aid Limited. This was new to him, but he wanted to try it. He struck a spoon on a wine glass and the room fell silent. Will was nervously fidgeting with his hands when he heard a voice behind him shout out, "Everyone be silent. Here's the money. Is everything? Talk." Will looked directly at the man. I am sorry you have me at a loss. What is your name? I am Duncan McKay, and you should remember me because I am not your buddy. I am the chief representative of the engineering union. Duncan, I was hoping you'd listen to me before making a decision. Looks like I was mistaken. No, Duncan, this is not agreed upon nice conversation. Sure, greed benefits individuals who are greedy, but it is terrible for everyone else. Greedy people demand instant cash, which reduces investment in firms and creates fewer jobs. This is not about suggesting greed is acceptable, Duncan. This is a thank you note. Just over a year ago, he was the center of attention. Someone attempted to take me out. They would have if it hadn't been for the products made by this company and the incredible work of my wife. I could never thank my wife enough. But I can try to thank you everyone for your efforts, which helped save my life. Within the next few days, each of you will receive a check in the mail, and all checks will be the same amount. It makes no difference whether you manage the place or clean it. Everyone receives the same. People started whispering among themselves, and suddenly McKay stood up. Okay, we've seen the nice talk. Will you tell us now how you let us down? Look here. He showed the newspaper. The Financial Times reports that our boss has sold our work to an American corporation. By this time next year, we may not have work. Will's eyes rolled briefly before he spoke calmly to the guy in charge of the workers. Duncan, it's great that you're so tuned in to what these people need, but you need to go beyond the big titles. I saw the paper today, too, and what it says is correct. I did sell the rights to manufacture our naked products to a firm in the United States. But there are strict restrictions. They can only sell in their home country, leaving the rest of the globe to us. The market in the United States, where we negotiated a deal, is large, but ours is even larger. So I understand you're asking why I'm sharing this. The truth is, the U.S. market is difficult to penetrate. Many UK enterprises have tried and failed. Their defense market is vast, yet they are reluctant to collaborate with outsiders. I negotiated a deal that gives us 3% of all sales of our products. It's either 3% of a large sum or nothing at all. Which would you choose, Duncan? After a brief pause, everyone focused on McKay. Duncan, when that corporation obtains our stuff, they'll start trying to avoid our patents. My objective is to invest every bit of that 3% in creating new, better things. That way, before they can circumvent our patents, they will have even better products available. We'll let that sink in. McKay gave it one more go. I am paying close attention to you. I will not let you cheat. My folks are aware, Duncan, you do not really know me. You are aware of what others have said about me. Guessing who someone is based on their reputation might be misleading. If I did that with you, I'd assume you were simply causing trouble. But I see there is more to you. I'm leaving for a little, but when I return, I intend to get even more involved here. I am willing to work with everyone. If there is nothing else, I must depart. Thank you for listening. Remember, the money you get is a gift, so the taxman will not pursue it. Everyone went back to work, and Will approached me. I stood to greet him, and he smiled as he placed his hand on my belly. That went fairly nicely. I was quite confident McKay was going to start something. He was simply doing his job. Now I believe you have some news for me. What? How did you know? Up there, I saw you down below, all cheerful. You also keep stroking your stomach. I think I am going to have a baby. I'm 2 weeks late, therefore I have a lot of tests. You know, those are not always correct. I showed him 15 test kits from my bag on the table. I understand. That is why I took so many. They all say, yes, we will have a baby. You're happy, right? What is Bruce saying? Does the Pope pray? Yes, I'm happy. He hugged me so tightly that I was lifted off the ground. He stared at me again. This means that things change. We cannot go today. Yes, we can. It is not yet coming. Today. Visit a doctor? If he says yes, we'll depart tomorrow. He took his phone out to make a call. I overheard some of it. Hello, Bruce. Are we all set? Okay, good. Listen, we aren't leaving until tomorrow. Yep. Bring out some expensive beverages. Yes, we are. I want the entire squad there. Now, Bruce, as I previously stated, plans changed. How about participating in the large boat race? I thought you'd appreciate that. I will get us a boat. Ours is not suitable for racing. Yeah, we are on our way. I'll be there in 30. Are you genuinely happy about this? Very. And I'll be a far better father than my was. Oh, I need to tell him he's receiving another shot. We strolled outside, arms around each other. Can we wait until after the doctor's appointment to tell Tom? I'd want to have some alone time with you. The staff will guess what's in the drinks. That is okay. They are like strangers. They will not delve deeply. Tom and my family will dive in. I just want to wait a little. Thomas held the door for us as we approached the car. The port. Right, sir. Yes, thank you, Thomas. He sat next to me all smiling. I figured the large commercial would wipe that grin away, but nope. This year's top book was described as the ideal book for your journey. Samantha James narrates her own story. Fortune holds you captive. Do not miss it. Sam smiled and glanced at us. I embraced him close and whispered, "Looks like she's doing great." She seemed to have learned a lot, which is great for her. It must have been tough. I met his gaze and looked deeply into his eyes. Do you really mean that? Are you truly happy for her? Why not? I am in a better place, happier than ever. Sure, this year had its low points, but look what we got out of it. He kissed me. Our tongues met. His hand traveled to my chest, and I felt like I was destined to be here. As we came to a halt near BJ2, we let go and I adjusted my clothes. Stepping out, I looked up. Thank you, I muttered. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, write a comment below with your thoughts on what transpired.